Alex's mind was a chaotic buzz of questions. Why was he so important to Sophia? He replayed the night, the day, the week, trying to piece it together. After what felt like an eternity, he sighed and decided he needed to use the bathroom. He carefully, gently lifted Sophia's arm from where it rested on his waist. Hunching over, he crept toward the bathroom like a burglar in his own room. He slipped inside, closed the door without a sound, and twisted the faucet, splashing cold water on his face. The shock cleared some of the fog from his head, washing away the nervous energy. He leaned against the counter, breathing slowly, until he figured out a real way to escape her control. He had to stick to the plan, play along, keep her calm, and not lose his own nerve. It was working, he had to admit. For the last 2 days, they'd achieved a kind of surface-level peace. She'd loosened her grip, just a little. Everything was moving in the right direction. He shook the water from his hands, bracing them on the edge of the sink, and stared down at the porcelain basin. Suddenly, a voice called from outside the door, sharp with panic. "Alex!" He pinched the bridge of his nose, a wave of exasperation washing over him. She'd been sound asleep when he got up. How could she have woken up so fast? A flicker of defiance, an emotion he couldn't quite name, sparked in his chest. For once, he didn't want to be the good boy. He stayed silent, pretending he hadn't heard. The world outside the door fell quiet again. A minute later, Alex opened the door and stepped out, flinching at the sudden brightness. He hadn't turned on the light in the bathroom. He shielded his eyes until they adjusted, then lowered his arm. What he saw made him freeze. Sophia wasn't in the bed. She was on the floor, curled into a tight ball on the thick rug, her back against the side of the mattress. She had her arms wrapped around her legs, her head buried between her knees. Strands of black hair fell around her, and her shoulders were trembling. Alex stared, stunned. Was she crying? Just because she woke up and he wasn't there? Was that even possible? He felt a sudden, paralyzing uncertainty. And mixed in with it was a sliver of guilt he didn't want to acknowledge. If he'd just answered when she called, this wouldn't have happened. He walked over slowly and crouched down beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Did you have a nightmare?" he asked, his voice soft. Sophia flinched, then slowly lifted her head. Her face was streaked with tears, her expression a mask of such raw despair it made Alex's chest ache. He recognized the feeling instantly, that dangerous pang of sympathy, and sighed internally. Once again, he was being suckered in by her heartbreaking vulnerability. Sophia might have her own demons, but they weren't his fault. His misery, on the other hand, was entirely her creation. Her eyes, though, her eyes were beautiful. Double eyelids, long, curling lashes that fluttered like a butterfly's wings when she blinked. Her irises were so dark they looked black, and in quiet moments, they held an almost childlike innocence. Of course, that was rare. Most of the time, they were glacial, her gaze sweeping over you with a cold indifference that could freeze your blood. Nothing like the eyes of an 18-year-old girl. But she had her gentle moments, too. Those were reserved for when Alex was being good. Now, as she looked up at him, tears clinging to her lashes like tiny crystals, she just stared, her expression vacant. He worried she'd completely checked out. He reached out and touched her forehead. "What's wrong?" he whispered. Suddenly, she launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. The untouchable, unbreakable Ice Queen was sobbing in his arms, her cries muffled against his shoulder. Stunned, Alex awkwardly hugged her back, patting her back gently. "Alex, is it really you?" She choked out between sobs. "It's me." She didn't seem to believe him. She pulled back, cupping his face in her hands, her tear-filled eyes searching his as if to confirm he was real. Convinced, she collapsed against him again. I thought you were gone." Sophia's words were a jumbled, hiccuping mess. In that moment, she wasn't a terrifying heiress. She was just a fragile, scared girl. "I'm here. I just went to the bathroom." "Don't leave me. Don't leave me like they did, okay? Alex, you're all I have now." Her voice trembled as she clung to him, holding on with a desperate strength that seemed to drain all her energy. He could feel it then, a fear so profound it was almost palpable. She had no safety net, no anchor. He found himself murmuring reassurances, something his past self would have never dreamed of. I won't leave you. Don't worry." His promise seemed to work. The near-hysterical energy in her body slowly subsided, replaced by quiet, shuddering sobs. But she didn't let go. They stayed like that, holding each other on the floor. After a long time, the crying stopped. Alex looked down. Sophia had buried her face in his chest, leaving a damp patch on his shirt. She was curled up against him, as pliant and still as a kitten. He ventured a soft question. "Sophie." She stirred slightly. Let's go back to bed, okay? Emma, she mumbled. Alex waited a few seconds, but she made no move to get up. With a sigh, he scooped her into his arms. She was shockingly light, no heavier than a cat. He carried her easily to the bed, laid her down gently, and then slid in beside her. Sophia immediately turned onto her side and wrapped an arm around his waist, snuggling close and closing her eyes without another word. After all that, Alex was exhausted. He fell asleep almost instantly. But while he slept, the night was far from over. Elsewhere, others tossed and turned, sleep eluding them. Zach Johnson was one of them. He'd gone to the reunion with a full game plan, ready to move past the most popular girl smiled at me phase and make a real move on Lily Thompson. But then Alex, with his completely insane, out-of-nowhere power move, had ruined everything. Lily had been dazed for the rest of the night, leaving the second the party was over without even giving Zach a chance to say goodbye. Lily, for her part, couldn't sleep either. She finally gave up and sat up in bed. The whole evening felt surreal. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Alex's handsome, smiling face. And when she opened them, she saw the image of him donating $500,000 without batting an eye. She was going crazy. She had to know, was Alex Turner some secret trust fund kid, or was he really being kept by some rich woman? The answer was critical. If he was from a wealthy family, and she had just accepted his confession of love back then, she would have rocketed into the stratosphere of high society. Life would have been a blur of luxury cars and designer clothes. The thought made her ache with regret, a pain worse than losing a lottery ticket. But if he was being kept by a sugar mama, well, in this day and age, nobody cared how you got the money, as long as you had it. And, judging by the casual way Alex threw cash around, his patron had to be on another level. If Lily could get back on his good side, maybe she could network her way into that world, meet some genuinely rich and powerful people. Either way, making an enemy of Alex Turner had been a terrible, terrible mistake. The next morning, Alex opened his eyes and found himself looking directly into another pair. They were slightly swollen from crying, but filled with an incredible tenderness. It was like looking at a frozen pond after a long winter, the ice finally cracking under the spring sun, the surface rippling with a gentle warmth. His brain, still fuzzy with sleep, took a moment to register who was staring at him. Then it hit him, and he was wide awake. Sophia had been in his arms when he fell asleep, and she was still there when he woke up. His arm was her pillow, and she'd held him all night. He was just now noticing the pins and needles creeping through his numb limb. She offered him a soft, sleepy smile and tightened her grip on his waist, burying her face in the crook of his neck. She nuzzled against him like a contented cat. The simple, natural gesture miraculously dissolved the awkwardness in his chest, replacing it with a strange thought. It felt like he and Sophia had skipped all the normal steps, the dating, the engagement, the wedding, and fast-forwarded straight to being an old married couple. After a moment, Sophia lifted her head and planted a light kiss on his cheek. The feathery touch sent a shiver down his spine, and he had to fight the instinct to pull away. He also had to violently suppress a more primal urge that shot through him. "It's early," she murmured, her voice husky. "Go back to sleep." Alex obediently closed his eyes, but sleep was impossible now. Sophia wasn't sleeping either. The two of them just lay there, wrapped up in a state of sticky, sweet, newlywed-like silence. Then, out of the blue, she asked, "Do you want to go home today?" Alex hesitated. "You let me go home?" she confirmed. "I want to go with you." He looked down at her in surprise. She was wearing a conservative, high-neck pajama set, but from his angle, he could see the pale, smooth skin of her collarbone. Even though they'd spent the night wrapped around each other, he reflexively averted his eyes. He cleared his throat. "You want to come to my house?" "What? You don't want me to," she countered. "No, of course not. My parents would be thrilled to see me bring home a girl as beautiful as you." Jake and some of his classmates already knew about Sophia. There was no way he could hide her from his parents forever. He wasn't planning to. It just felt fast. What he didn't know was that Sophia had never intended to meet his parents. In her mind, Alex was Alex, and everyone else was just everyone else. She hated dealing with irrelevant people. But in a flash of insight, she'd realized that way of thinking was wrong. If she truly wanted to marry Alex, to have him stay by her side willingly and happily, she had to change. Alex was an individual, but he was also part of a small community. If she selfishly tried to rip him away from that world, a world she didn't know, he would never be truly happy. After breakfast, Sophia went upstairs to change. Charles Harrington, who had been conspicuously absent, suddenly appeared, his expression a complex mixture of emotions as he looked at Alex. Gratitude was the most prominent. Having you here seems to be doing the young miss a world of good, he said quietly. Alex asked instinctively, what happened yesterday? A single phone call had been enough to make her rush out. It had to have been important. Charles just shook his head silently. Alex had expected as much. If Sophia didn't want something known, no one could get out of her people. He had to hand it to her. Her staff was fiercely loyal. He'd learned that lesson the hard way in his past life. It was, in its own way, an admirable quality. About an hour later, Sophia came downstairs. Alex heard her footsteps and looked up. For a second, he didn't recognize her. In his memory, Sophia only ever wore simple tops and pants, relying on her natural beauty without a trace of makeup. He'd never seen her wear a dress out of the house. Now, she was wearing a pure white lace dress that cinched at her waist, making it look so slender he could circle it with his hands. Her neck, arms, and ankles were exposed, all as pale and delicate as porcelain. Her long hair was down, with a small diamond clip, one he'd bought for her yesterday, holding back the strands at her temple. She carried a small white purse, also from their shopping trip. Dressed in white, the icy coldness that usually surrounded her had melted away. She looked sweet and demure, the very picture of the straight, a student every teacher adored. It was an image no parent could dislike. She walked right up to him and did a little twirl. Is this okay? Alex's gaze lingered on her. Okay, it's beautiful, he said, and he meant it. He hadn't been exaggerating at the reunion when he'd said he'd never seen anyone more beautiful than her, or anyone more violently unreasonable, he added silently. Sophia touched the purse and the diamond clip in her hair, then stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Thank you for the gifts. I love them. Alex felt a pang of irony. They were gifts he'd bought with her money. Fate, however, had other plans. Just like she'd missed his class reunion the night before, Sophia never made it to his house. Another call came. Her expression instantly turned to ice, a chill so profound that not even the angelic dress could contain it. She apologized to Alex, went back upstairs to change into her usual clothes, and left in a hurry. I'm so sorry, dear. We don't have much to offer you. Please don't mind. The Turner apartment was a small, two-bedroom unit in an older building. The furniture was dated and the decor was plain, but it was immaculately clean and organized. The 60-square-meter space didn't feel cramped. Instead, it had a cozy, lived-in warmth. A faint, bitter scent of herbal medicine hung in the air. Emily Turner placed a plate of freshly washed and sliced apples on the coffee table. She smiled apologetically at the girl sitting quietly on the couch. Don't worry about it, Mrs. Turner, the girl said with a polite smile of her own. Her eyes scanned the room. Is Mr. Turner at work? After a few minutes of casual chat, the girl stood up gracefully and said her goodbyes. The moment the door closed behind her, the sweet, polite smile vanished from the face of the pretty, quiet girl Emily Turner had been so charmed by. Lily Thompson's mind was made up. Alex Turner was not a trust fund kid. What kind of rich family would live in a 30-year-old shoebox like this? Even if they were trying to be humble, this was taking it too far. That left only one explanation. Alex Turner had a sugar mama. Alex waited on the street corner for less than a minute before a taxi pulled up. As he opened the door and slid inside, he glanced instinctively at the driver. The man turned to meet his gaze and offered a folksy smile. Fancy seeing you here, son. Alex gave a wry, self-deprecating laugh. Fancy? Yeah, you could say that. Compared to his last life, Sophia had seemingly loosened the leash, but in reality, she was still watching his every move. No matter where he went, someone was following him, either openly or from the shadows. He'd made his peace with it. It didn't matter anymore. His phone rang, displaying an unknown local number. He hesitated for a second, then answered. As soon as the person on the other end spoke, Alex frowned. Sophia's one-stop service had been thorough, blocking Lily Thompson's number and all her social media accounts. Alex had been perfectly happy to leave her in digital exile, but now she was calling from a different number. Was she still hung up on that crude comment he'd made? And why now, right after he'd thrown around $500,000 like it was pocket change? Alex had a pretty good idea what this call was really about. He didn't give her a chance to speak. He just hung up. The driver chuckled. Why not let the little lady finish? You two have a spat. His ears were sharp. Even without speakerphone, he'd picked up that it was a girl. A blatant attempt to fish for information. Nothing to talk about, Alex said dismissively, looking down at his phone. A text message came through from the number he'd just disconnected. He read it and scoffed. She was threatening him. The message said he needed to meet her today, and if he didn't, he'd face the consequences. She was vague on what those consequences might be. Alex found it hilarious. He was 18 years old and had lived a straightforward, honest life. He could say with a clear conscience that he'd never done anything to be ashamed of. What kind of dirt could she possibly have on him? Then he remembered what Jake had asked him last night, his voice full of concern and hesitation. You don't have a sugar mama, do you? He had to admit his behavior at the reunion had been unexpected. It was no surprise people were coming up with wild theories. Alex was already planning to come clean with his parents in the next day or two. He'd only warned Jake to keep quiet because he didn't want him accidentally spilling some crazy theory and worrying them. He texted Lily back. So you changed your mind? Ready for that free drink after all? For a long time, there was no reply. Alex figured his comment about the free drink had probably made her head explode. He wasn't wrong. The moment his message landed, Lily had thrown her phone against the wall. A second later, she gasped and scrambled to pick it up. The screen was a spiderweb of cracks. Her heart sank. It was the brand new iPhone Zach had just given her as a graduation present, the one she'd been dreaming about for months. It cost over $1,000. She seethed with a mixture of fury and regret. Then she remembered the fortune Alex had donated without a second thought. $500,000. How many iPhones could that buy? A cold, wicked smile spread across her face. Alex Turner, I gave you a chance. You're the one who didn't take it. Don't blame me for what comes next. Alex had just gotten out of the cab at his apartment complex when Lily intercepted him. She acted as if nothing had happened, peering curiously behind him. All by yourself? Where's your girlfriend? Alex's brow furrowed. This woman was like a bad rash. From what Jake was saying last night, your girlfriend keeps a pretty tight leash on you. Is she afraid you'll run off? Lily's smile was sickly sweet. She must really care about you. What's it to you? Alex's tone was frigid. Spit it out. What do you want? Lily's voice took on a wounded, wistful tone. Alex, you weren't like this before. Have you forgotten the night after our exams ended? You called me, you told me you. I said I like you. Alex cut her off flatly. That was then, this is now. Sorry, but I don't like you anymore. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going home. Seeing his bluntness and the total lack of room for negotiation, Lily dropped the act. The pitiful look vanished in an instant, replaced by contempt. So you landed a sugar mama. What makes you so special? Alex stared at her coldly. What are you trying to do? Lily clasped her hands behind her back, puffing out her well-developed chest as she circled him. Her smile was laced with insinuation. Nothing at all. Oh, but I forgot to tell you. I just came from your apartment. I had a nice chat with your mother. She saw Alex frown, and a flicker of triumph crossed her face. I can tell your mom has high hopes for you. She's so proud of her son. I can also tell she has a very strong moral compass. I wonder what she would think if she knew her precious, brilliant son was being kept by some old woman her own age. Just as he'd expected, Lily was actually using this to threaten him. This was the pure, kind, caring girl he'd once had a crush on. He must have been blind to fall for such a fake, despicable person. A strange curiosity took hold of him. He wanted to see just how far she would take this. He deliberately furrowed his brow. What are you trying to say? Seeing that she had him rattled, Lily grew bolder. Those things you said to me, you didn't really mean them, did you? She softened her voice, her tone now full of grievance and hurt. You were the one who liked me. What does that have to do with me? Why should I be the sacrificial lamb, just so you can please some other woman? The first part of her argument almost made sense. It was true. He had been fooled by her gentle act and developed a crush on her. That was on him, but the rest of it was pure delusion. Pleasing another woman? It took him a second to connect the dots. Lily thought his sugar mama had somehow found out about her and gotten jealous, and that his crude remarks were his way of placating the rich old woman. Lily's voice rose with indignation. Do you have any idea how much you hurt me? What gives you the right to humiliate me like that? You have to compensate me for this. Alex raised an eyebrow. There it was. Everything she'd said before was just a preamble to this one sentence. Alex played along, a half-smile on his face. And what kind of compensation did you have in mind? Lily's heart leaped. That'll teach you to humiliate me. She figured Alex was in favor right now. He must have at least $1 million or so on him. She was underestimating. After the donation, Alex still had nearly $9 million. She held up her shattered phone. Look at this. I've only had this phone for 2 days, and you made me so angry I broke it. And it's not just this one. Another one of my phones broke because of you two. You have to pay me back. Alex glanced at the phone, his immunity to her shamelessness now fully developed. His voice was eerily calm. And you have to pay me for emotional damages. Don't think I'm just after your dirty money. This is about teaching you a lesson, so you don't go around insulting people. Alex nodded. Anything else? Seeing how calm he was, how readily he seemed to accept her demands, Lily thought for a moment and added, I haven't thought of anything else yet. I'll let you know when I do. So, Alex drawled, how much for the emotional damages? Lily held up one finger. $1 million. A girl who had just graduated high school was demanding $1 million from a boy her own age, and she was doing it with a straight face. This greedy, foolish woman. Alex laughed. He had truly underestimated her avarice. $1 million. She really had the guts to ask. His voice turned to ice. And if I refuse? Then I'll tell your mother everything. Lily shot back immediately. I don't think you want her to know about this, do you? Don't forget, you're her pride and joy. I hear your mom hasn't been well. What do you think the shock would do to her? It might just kill her, don't you think? Alex's lips tightened into a thin line. His mother's health had been fragile ever since her surgery. In his past life, when his father died in the car accident, the shock had nearly killed her too. He had been given a second chance, a chance to take care of his parents and let them live out their years in peace. Lily, oblivious to the cold fury in his eyes, pressed on. Look, Alex, we were classmates. I don't want to do this, but you're forcing my hand. Alex sneered. Forcing your hand? You're the one who played games, telling me you were too young for a relationship while asking me to take you shopping. Don't treat people like idiots. If you want to keep a string of guys dangling, that's your business, but don't include me in your collection. Your whole two-faced act makes me sick. Lily was stunned that he would lay out her private manipulations so bluntly. Humiliation turned to rage. Alex, I was wrong about you. I used to think you were a gentleman. That's why I was trying to give you a chance. I can't believe you twisted it into something so ugly. It's obvious from this whole sugar mama thing that your polite, scholarly persona was all a sham. I can't even imagine what your parents would think if they knew. Or what about all the teachers who thought so highly of you? After everything he'd been through in his past life, Lily's shameless, ugly tirade barely registered his anger. Seeing him stay silent, Lily assumed he was scared. She laughed dismissively. Don't blame anyone else. You should have thought about this before you showed off last night. She must really spoil you, huh? $1 million should be nothing for you. Just bat your eyelashes and ask for it. I'm only asking for $1 million. It's not that much. You hurt me, so I deserve compensation. It's only fair. Alex stared at her for a long moment, then let out a sudden, sharp laugh. He calmly pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Hello, police. I'd like to report an extortion attempt. A woman is trying to blackmail me for $1 million. The color drained from Lily's face. She never, ever thought he would actually call the police. Wasn't he afraid of his dirty little secret being kept by a sugar mama getting out? Lily wasn't a complete idiot. She had assumed that Alex would do anything to keep his parents from finding out. Most parents would be ashamed of something like this. She figured his flashy display at the reunion was just a reaction to Zach's taunts, a moment of reckless pride. It was a mistake that had given her leverage. Her original plan was to mend fences with Alex and use him to get closer to high society circles. But when his attitude made it clear that was impossible, her greed took over. $1 million. It wasn't his hard-earned money anyway. Surely he would pay to keep her quiet. She never imagined he just didn't care. Seeing him call the police without a second's hesitation, she panicked and lunged for him. You can't call them. Alex sidestepped her easily. What are you so afraid of? He sneered. Suddenly, Lily regained her composure. She laughed it off. I was just joking with you. You actually took me seriously? The police won't. After all, Alex hadn't given her a dime. If the police showed up, she could just insist it was all a misunderstanding. What could they do? Her logic seemed to convince Alex. He gave her one last cold look, then turned and walked away. Lily glared at his retreating back and stomped her foot. You bastard. This isn't over. I'm not letting you off that easily. Her phone, tucked away in her purse, was buzzing nonstop with notifications. The screen was shattered, but it was still functional. Fuming, Lily went to get it repaired. When she finally got it back, she saw the class group chat had over 99 new messages. It had completely blown up. I can't believe she's that kind of person. You really can't judge a book by its cover. This is terrifying. Already in a foul mood, Lily felt a flash of schadenfreude. Looks like some other girl's drama is blowing up. She scrolled up, trying to figure out who it was, until a message from her best friend caught her eye. It contained 2 words, Lily Thompson. Her brain went into overdrive, a loud buzzing in her ears. She frantically scrolled back up, her fingers flying across the newly repaired screen until she found it. An audio file, posted by Alex Turner. Give me $1 million. Your mom's not well. You don't want to give her a heart attack, do you? She must really spoil you, huh? $1 million should be nothing. Just bat your eyelashes and ask for it. Lily's face went white. Her hand went limp. Crack. The brand new screen of her just repaired phone shattered into a spiderweb for the second time that day. Almost everyone who knew Alex Turner thought he was good-natured, but good-natured didn't mean he didn't have a temper. In his last life, Lily Thompson had slandered his name and destroyed his best friend. This was a debt he intended to collect. He had planned on finding the right moment for revenge, but he never expected Lily to serve herself up on a silver platter. He wasn't about to let the opportunity slip by. He had posted the recording to the group chat without a second thought, ripping away her perfect girl mask and exposing her greedy, manipulative true self for everyone to see. He wanted her to know what public humiliation felt like. Of course, he knew it wouldn't be enough to completely crush her. She wasn't the type to be shamed into hiding. She didn't have that kind of conscience. That was fine. He had other plans. Alex's eyes were cold. Lily wanted to play with fire? He would drag her straight to hell. After sending the recording, he tossed his phone in his bedroom and gone to help his mom make dinner. They were making lasagna from scratch. The audio file had hit the group chat like a bomb. The class was in an uproar, buzzing with shock, disbelief, and rampant speculation. Jake Ramirez was furious, leading the charge against Lily, becoming the primary force in tearing down her carefully constructed facade. In his past life, Jake had stood by Alex just as furiously denying Lily's lies. In retaliation, Lily had gotten some thug to teach Jake a lesson. Jake had killed the man in self-defense, a tragedy that had become an open wound in Alex's memory. Now, Jake was locked in a digital war with Zach Johnson, Lily's most loyal defender. Other classmates chimed in, offering their own opinions. The chat was pure chaos. An hour later, Lily herself finally surfaced, her message dripping with manufactured panic and fear. Lily Thompson, it's not what you guys think. Lily Thompson, we've been classmates for 3 years. You all know what kind of person I am, don't you? She had recorded a voice message, her tone trembling and on the verge of tears. She sounded helpless and utterly devastated. Jake immediately shot back. Jake Ramirez, yeah, we thought we knew you. But if Alex hadn't posted that recording, who would have known you were capable of saying something like that? Do you even know what you were doing? That's extortion. Is that legal, genius? Her knight in shining armor, Zach Johnson, galloped to her defense. Zach Johnson, everyone knows Alex confessed to Lily after exams. He's obviously holding a grudge because she rejected him. He probably used AI to fake that audio to ruin her reputation. This is slander. Zach's message was a lifeline for Lily. That's right. No one had seen them talking outside the apartment building. There were no witnesses, no proof besides the audio. How could Alex possibly prove anything with just a recording? She immediately abandoned her original plan to claim it was all a joke. Instead, she started to cry into her phone, her voice thick with fake despair. We were classmates. Alex, why would you do this to me? Zach, incensed, typed furiously. Call the police, Lily. This is disgusting. How could he do this to you? This is a serious attack on your character. He needs to be held accountable. Jake, who knew Alex better than anyone, was certain the audio was real. Yeah, call them. Go ahead. Let's see who they arrest when they get here. The group chat devolved into a screaming match. Alex, oblivious, was in the kitchen, rolling out pasta sheets and chatting with his mom. The gentle, loving way she looked at him as she worked almost broke him. He quickly dropped the rolling pin, pretending to go get a glass of water so he could secretly wipe away the tears welling in his eyes. When he'd first come back, he had been so overwhelmed by the shock of his rebirth that seeing his parents felt like a dream. He was used to seeing them in his dreams in his past life. But this was different. Sophia hadn't given him a curfew. He still had to go back that night, but for now, it wasn't even noon. He had hours to soak in the warmth of home, the simple, profound happiness of having his parents alive and well. Is your job really tiring? His mom asked, her eyes full of concern. Why didn't you tell me you were coming home? I would have made you something special. Alex shook his head. It's fine, Mom. I love anything you make. It wasn't that he was suffering at Sophia's house. The food, the clothes, the accommodations, everything was top tier. Once he'd learned to behave, Sophia had been surprisingly reasonable. But a golden cage was still a cage. He had desperately missed this. The pasta was rolled out. Not wanting to be idle, Alex picked up a sheet, spooned some filling into it, and clumsily started to form a ravioli. His mom shot him a look of disdain. Just go rest. That looks awful. Mom, Alex said, putting down the mangled piece of pasta and picking up another. I have a girlfriend. His mom stared at him, momentarily stunned. Alex had always been a good kid, never giving his parents anything to worry about. He'd sailed through his teenage years without the usual rebellion, bad grades, or drama over dating. Hearing this sudden confession caught her off guard. She was about to give the standard parental speech, We're not against you dating, but you have to be responsible and not let it affect your studies. When she remembered he was done with high school. He'd already turned 18. Her eyes suddenly stung. A wave of indescribable pride washed over her. The tiny, screaming baby she once held in her arms had grown into a handsome young man. This amazing young man is my son. She smiled and reached out to pinch his cheek, leaving a faint dusting of flour on his face. My son is all grown up. Is she one of your classmates? She thought of the polite girl who had stopped by that morning to return some textbooks, and her heart filled with joy. That girl seemed so sweet and well-mannered. Alex shook his head. She's not a classmate. His mom looked surprised. I met her at my part-time job. She's my boss, I guess. Her name is Sophia. Your boss. His mom's surprise grew. She looked at him cautiously, then asked hesitantly, So, how old is she? Alex smiled. Same age as me. 18. His mom let out a sigh of relief, followed by a gasp of wonder. She's a boss at her age? That's incredible. She considered herself a progressive parent. As long as her son was happy, she would accept any daughter-in-law he chose. But deep down, every parent secretly hopes their child will find someone from a similar background. You should bring her over sometime, let your mom get a look at her, Emily said, a mix of happiness and melancholy in her voice. Her son was growing up, which meant he would soon be independent and wouldn't need them anymore. Mom, Alex started, our families. There's a pretty big gap. Emily understood immediately. Her family is well off? I guess so, being a business owner at 18. Well, they always say it's best to be with someone from a similar background, but my son is no slouch either. If you two genuinely like each other, you can start as friends and see where it goes. You're both still young, after all. Alex knew his mom wasn't grasping the full scale of what he meant by a big gap. He elaborated. Her family is extremely wealthy. Like on the Forbes list, kind of wealthy. They're worth billions. Oh. Emily breathed, clearly shocked. And that was Alex underselling it. Sophia's personal assets alone were in the tens of billions. She was a bona fide tycoon, a tycoon who happened to be his age. Emily was speechless, stammering, That's so much money. You too. But our situation. Son, you too. It's not a good match. Her brow furrowed with worry. Son, it's not that I'm old-fashioned, but being on equal footing is always important in a relationship. If it was just a small difference, of course I would support you. My son is an amazing person, and in a few years, who knows what you could achieve. But this gap is just too massive. Alex had known this would be her reaction. His parents had simple dreams for him. Grow up safe and happy. If he became successful, great. If not, as long as the family was together and living a peaceful life, that was fine too. They were simple, honest people with a quiet pride. They disdained the idea of latching onto the rich and powerful. Her first reaction to him having a super rich girlfriend wasn't excitement that he could skip 20 years of struggle, but fear that he would be hurt in such an unequal relationship. Alex immediately stated his case, telling a white lie. But Mom, I like her, and she likes me. I think our feelings are strong enough to overcome this. I don't want to give up. Emily looked at him, her eyes full of concern, but she saw the determination in his gaze. After a long moment, she sighed and smiled. All right, your father and I have always said that no matter who you bring home, as long as you love her, we'll accept her. But, she added gently, and this is just an if you two don't end up together, that's okay too. Relationships come and go. The most important thing is that you're happy. Alex nodded. His mom was worried he'd be heartbroken if they broke up someday, and she was trying to cushion the blow in advance. She had no idea that he was the one preemptively cushioning the blow for them, so that when he and Sophia eventually went their separate ways, his parents wouldn't worry too much. Emily thought for a moment. You should bring a young lady over for dinner sometime. Let your dad, meet her. Ask her what she likes to eat beforehand. With her family's money, she's probably tried everything. My cooking is hardly anything special. Usually, when friends or family visited, his parents would insist on taking them out to a restaurant. But without fail, their guests would always insist on eating at home, not just to save the Turners money, but because Emily's cooking was legendary. Some relatives had even joked about pooling their money to open a small restaurant for her, guaranteeing she'd make a fortune. By asking Alex to bring his girlfriend home, she was showing respect, but Alex knew her true intention. She wanted the girl to see with her own eyes the vast difference between their two worlds, to make her think twice about the relationship. His mother's intentions were good, but Alex knew Sophia was no ordinary girl. Since he'd already started, Alex decided to lay it all out. He couldn't tell her the whole truth, of course, but he artistically embellished it. The version his mother heard painted Sophia as a wealthy heiress unlike others born with a silver spoon. He explained that he had made a promise, that Sophia needed him, and that he had to go back to her place. It was both his job and his duty as her boyfriend. The whole story was bizarre, but Alex was smart. He glossed over the dangerous parts and focused on the romantic ones, managing to spin a tangled web into something that sounded halfway plausible. He even told her about the $500,000 donation he'd made in Sophia's name to prevent anyone from spreading malicious gossip to his parents and making them worry. Emily listened, her expression moving from stunned to incredulous. It took her a long time to process everything. Her reservations about the relationship only grew stronger. She gives you money to spend? Yeah. Emily looked troubled. Oh, honey, you're a young man. It doesn't look right taking money from a girl. His parents had raised him to be independent and responsible. Alex had always firmly believed that it was a man's job to provide for a woman. The other way around. Well, he wouldn't judge others, but he couldn't accept it for himself. He was the last person who would ever want to be a kept man. But fate had a twisted sense of humor. The proud, self-reliant Alex Turner was being forced to live off Sophia Reed, and he had no choice in the matter. Alex gave a dry laugh. Mom, we've been talking about gender equality for decades. There are plenty of households where the woman is the breadwinner. That may be true, but Emily's worry deepened. She was older, and her mind jumped to the future. What if the two of them didn't work out, which seemed highly likely, and the girl demanded he pay back all the money she'd spent on him? It wasn't about being greedy. It was about her son losing his sense of thrift. As the old saying goes, it's easy to go from frugal to lavish, but hard to go back. Then again, she knew her son. He was level-headed. He must know what he was doing. She sighed in resignation. In a world of billions, for you two to have met and gotten together, it must be fate. And you're both young. You have plenty of time to get to know each other. But I'm telling you, Alex, you had better not mistreat that girl, or you'll have me to answer to. Alex felt like he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. Him mistreat Sophia? He'd have to have a death wish. They had made a lot of food. Some was for lunch for him and his mother, and the rest was packed into containers and frozen for his dad's breakfast. While his mom was in the kitchen cooking, Alex checked his phone and saw that the recording incident had spiraled out of control. Lily's tearful, victimized performance had successfully turned the tide of public opinion. Except for a few staunch believers in the recording's authenticity, like Jake and a small neutral faction, everyone else had been swayed by her damsel in distress act. Lily had flipped the narrative entirely. With Zach Johnson fanning the flames, Alex, the victim of an extortion attempt, was now being painted as a malicious villain who had slandered an innocent girl after being rejected. Things were getting interesting. Not only was Zach demanding that Alex publicly apologize to Lily, but the high school's dean of students had also gotten involved. He had called Alex and, in a very serious tone, demanded he come to the school immediately to explain himself. A thought clicked in Alex's mind. The dean, Mr. Fulton, was Lily's distant uncle. Always looked out for her. Now that his precious niece was facing such a terrible injustice, of course he would step in to defend her. Mr. Fulton's message was clear. Even though Alex had graduated, he couldn't just do whatever he wanted. This was Alex's one chance to clear things up, or he would face the consequences. Alex knew exactly what clearing things up meant, apologizing to Lily. Despite the dean's threats, Alex calmly finished 2 bowls of his mom's cooking while chatting with her. Afterward, he insisted on washing the dishes and urged her to take a nap. Then he headed out the door. Lily had dug her own grave. Now, it was time to bury her in it. The only annoying part was having to go out in the summer heat. The moment he stepped outside his building, the familiar taxi slowed to a stop in front of him. The window rolled down, and the driver gave him a slight smile. Alex beat him to the punch. What a coincidence. This driver only ever seemed to have one customer. He was as coincidental as he wanted him to be. Sophia certainly went to great lengths. Alex opened the door, got in, and murmured a thanks. The driver, understanding perfectly, replied, "Don't mention it." The meeting was set to take place in Dean Fulton's office at the high school. When they arrived, the driver turned off the car and looked at Alex, dropping all pretense. "Wanting to go up with you?" Alex shook his head. "No, thanks. I've got it." But the driver got out of the car anyway. Alex sighed. Then why even ask? Was it your idea of being polite? He let it go. It didn't matter. He just couldn't believe his first trip back to his old school after graduation was for something so ridiculous. Inside the dean's office, the atmosphere was tense. "Lily, you still have a chance to tell the truth." Jake's voice was sharp. "Once Alex gets here and this whole thing blows up, you're the one who's going to be humiliated." "Shut up, Jake." Zach shot back. "We all know you and Alex are 2 peas in a pod. You probably helped him fake that audio. That's insane. No, you're what's insane. Jake, Dean Fulton interjected, his voice stern. Could it be that you had something to do with this fake audio? What are you making such a fuss for? The noisy office fell silent for a moment, but only for a moment. What's that supposed to mean, Mr. Fulton? Jake retorted, unintimidated. You say the audio is fake. Who verified that? Alex isn't even here yet, and you've already decided he's guilty? Even the police need evidence to convict someone. What's your basis for this judgment? The dean was speechless. Jake shot a glare at the sniffling Lily. Just because you're crying the loudest doesn't mean you're the most innocent. Jake Ramirez, that's enough, the dean snapped. If this doesn't concern you, then be quiet. Jake stuck his neck out. Well, what does it have to do with you? If you want me to shut up, maybe you should shut up first. Just then, Alex pushed the door open. He realized the office was more crowded than he'd expected. Besides the dean, Lily, Jake, and Zach, there were a dozen other former classmates, gossip mongers with nothing better to do than watch the drama unfold. His entrance silenced the room. Lily's sobs hitched for a second, then resumed with even greater intensity, as if she were about to hyperventilate. She looked utterly pitiful, the very picture of victim. When her eyes met Alex's, however, they flashed with a venomous hatred. Seeing him seemed to trigger a new wave of despair. She covered her face and began to wail. Alex, I just rejected you, that's all, she cried, getting her accusation in first. We can't be lovers, but we can still be friends. Or at least classmates. How could you do this to me? She swayed as if she were about to faint. The dean rushed to her side. Lily, don't get worked up. Your uncle will make sure you get justice. Justice? Alex smirked. So the dean had already passed his sentence. Alex, are you even a man? Zach snarled. If you want to bully Lily, you'll have to go through me first. Alex replied with bored indifference. And what little league team do you play for? Before Zach could explode, the dean slammed his hand on the desk, demanding silence. He then fixed his severe gaze on Alex. Alex Turner, I have watched Lily grow up. She is the kindest, most gentle girl I know. She would never, ever say the things in that recording. Alex feigned helplessness. Mr. Fulton, are you suggesting I fake the audio to slander her? You give me too much credit. I don't have the technical skills for that. I never said those things to you. Lily shrieked through her tears. That's right. Zach chimed in loudly. We were classmates for 3 years. We all know what kind of person Lily is. She would never do something so despicable. Alex knew it was true. For anyone else, that audio would have been a conviction. But Lily's innocent persona was so deeply ingrained that as soon as she cried, everyone rushed to believe her. Zach, wanting to drive home his unwavering loyalty to Lily, added defiantly, If Lily really said those things, I will eat a bowl of cat food in front of everyone. Alex smiled. You sure about that? A promise is a promise, you know. Alex turned his attention to Lily. Lily, Jake had a point earlier. Crying doesn't prove your innocence. Sometimes, it just proves you have a guilty conscience. I'm going to give you one last chance. You say I'm guilty? Lily screamed through her tears. Then show me your proof. Her confidence was solid. She had replayed the conversation outside the apartment building over and over in her mind. There had been no one within 30 feet of them. No cars, nothing. Alex was devious enough to record the audio, but his phone had been in his pocket. He couldn't possibly have taken a video. She was going to make the slander accusation stick today. She hated Alex with a burning passion. The cheapskate wouldn't spend $1 million to buy his peace, so he was going to have to pay a different price. Alex, man, hurry up and show them the proof. Jake urged, practically vibrating with nervous energy. Alex pretended to hesitate. Lily, I'm giving you one final chance. The more he stalled, the more certain Lily became that he was bluffing, that he had nothing else. Her confidence surged. I think you have that backward. I'm the one giving you a chance. I know what you did was hurtful, she said, her voice dripping with magnanimity. But we were classmates for 3 years. I'm not as cruel as you are. If you apologize to me in front of everyone and admit you faked the audio to slander me, we can let this go. Zach added, his voice full of pain. Lily, you're just too kind. That's why he was able to push you into a corner like this. Why can't you see that? Other students began to whisper among themselves, most of them agreeing with Zach. Dean Fulton glared at Alex. Alex Turner, Lily has made a very generous offer. What do you have to say for yourself? Don't waste everyone's time. This isn't just some high school prank anymore, he boomed. You are all adults now, and you can be held legally responsible for your actions. Alex smiled. All right. I don't want to waste anyone's time either. He took out his phone, his eyes landing on Lily with a smirk. I gave you a chance, and you didn't take it. So don't blame me for forgetting our 3 years of friendship. Though the one who really forgot about it was you, wasn't it? Meeting his mocking gaze, Lily's heart suddenly lurched with a sense of dread. Impossible. He can't have any other proof. He's just trying to scare me. I have to stay calm. Alex tapped his screen. To ensure everyone in the room could see, he maximized the video to full screen and laid his phone horizontally on the dean's desk. His and Lily's figures appeared clearly on the screen. Lily's eyes widened, her gaze locked on the phone. She watched the girl on the screen, a version of herself she barely recognized. The smug satisfaction in her eyes, the certainty that she had Alex exactly where she wanted him, and the way her expression darkened into a venomous scowl as she watched him walk away. She stared transfixed, too shocked to even react. A strange silence fell over the office. The dialogue from the phone speakers was crystal clear, a perfect match to the audio recording. Lily let out a scream and lunged for the phone, as if destroying it could erase the reality of what she'd done. It's fake. That's fake too. This time, Alex didn't wait for Jake to defend him. The audio, you say it's fake, he said with a cold sneer. The video, you also say it's fake. If someone saw it with their own eyes, would you claim their eyes are broken? Since you had the guts to do it, have the guts to own up to it. Don't make everyone lose respect for you. You're despicable. You're shameless. Lily shrieked, her composure completely shattered. You secretly recorded me. You're so manipulative. Her outburst plunged the room into another eerie silence. Lily froze, realizing what she just said. The color drained from her face, and a single bead of cold sweat trickled down her forehead. Alex let out a contemptuous laugh. Every eye in the room turned to Lily, their expressions a mixture of shock, disgust, and pity. The most stunned, of course, were Dean Fulton and Zach Johnson. The dean was still reeling from the video, sitting there in a stupor, unable to speak. Zach was muttering to himself, looking like his entire world had just collapsed. In his mind, Lily was a goddess, the embodiment of perfection. She was so innocent, so kind, so pure. How could she possibly threaten a classmate and try to extort $1 million from him? How could this? It's not possible. Lily isn't like that. Jake, on the other hand, was beaming. Hey, who was it that said they'd eat a bowl of cat food? We all heard you. A man's got to be true to his word. Zach's face turned a deep, mottled purple. The room erupted in whispers and murmurs, everyone staring at Lily with judgmental eyes. All of you, be quiet, the dean finally roared, slamming his hand on the desk again. He turned to Lily, his face livid. What is going on here? Explain yourself right now. After more than 20 years in education, the dean had cultivated an aura of stern authority. Lily had never been afraid of him because he'd always been gentle with her. But his anger now was 1,000 times more terrifying. Lily flinched. She stammered for a second, then broke into another wail. He tricked me. Alex set me up. Those things I said in the video, he deliberately manipulated me into saying them. If you don't believe me, just think about it. Why would he secretly record our conversation for no reason? Alex was almost impressed. In his past life, he had been helpless against her rumors, unable to clear his name. Lily wasn't just a master of slander. She was also incredibly quick on her feet. She could turn any situation around. Even now, cornered and exposed, she was trying to drag him back down into the mud with her. Unfortunately for her, her story was full of holes. Only a complete idiot like Zach would fall for it. Alex was no mind reader. The video clearly showed his surprise when he saw her waiting for him. He had no idea she would be there, let alone what she wanted. The idea that he entrapped her was just the desperate rambling of a cornered animal. Incidentally, the video had been provided by the driver, who knew what kind of surveillance equipment he had set up in the area. Even after driving away, he was still monitoring Alex, a testament to Sophia's all-encompassing desire for control. These people Sophia employed, Alex mused, were no amateurs. I was joking with him. Yes, that's it. I was just joking. Lily blurted out in a panic, finally resorting to the excuse she'd planned from the beginning. She put on her most innocent face again. You all took it seriously, and that's what blew this whole thing out of proportion. Zach Johnson, her loyal foot soldier who had sworn to defend her honor. Dean Fulton, the uncle who had been ready to fight for her justice. The crowd of onlookers. Alex laughed softly. Whether or not you were joking isn't up to you to decide. The office door opened, and 2 uniformed police officers stepped inside. Who is Lily Thompson? One of them asked, his voice calm but firm. Lily stared at the 2 towering, imposing figures, her mouth agape. What do you want? She stammered. We received a report that you were suspected of extortion. The amount is substantial. Please come with us to the station for questioning. Lily collapsed in her chair, her bravado gone. her body shaking uncontrollably. Everyone stared, stunned. No one had thought Alex would actually call the police. Alex nodded his thanks to Sophia's driver, who was standing just behind the officers. When the driver had followed him upstairs, he'd asked if Alex wanted him to call the police. Alex had simply said, "Please." Dean Fulton's face turned an ugly shade of red. As disappointed as he was in Lily, she was still family. He had to try to protect her. He forced a smile. "Officer, this is just a misunderstanding." "Alex, why don't you explain to the officers? It's a small matter, not worth wasting police resources. I'll have Lily apologize to you, and for my sake, we can just let this go, okay?" Alex's reply was short and sharp. "No." The dean froze, his expression hardening. He slipped back into his familiar role of disciplinarian. "Alex, you should learn to leave a little room for forgiveness. You've been classmates for 3 years. Why push things this far? Enough is enough." Alex chuckled. "Enough is enough? If everyone operated by that standard, what would we need the police for?" The dean had no answer. Alex swept his gaze around the room, a cold smile on his face. "Besides, Mr. Fulton, don't you think you're being a bit of a hypocrite? When you were all accusing me, no one was saying enough is enough. And I gave her a chance," he added. "She's the one who didn't take it. Who can she blame?" Of course, even if Lily had confessed, he had never intended to let her off easy. And based on his knowledge of her, he knew she never would have confessed anyway. Lily burst into hysterical sobs. Her whole life, she had used her looks and her fake, sweet personality to get what she wanted. When she was little, it was candy and stickers. As she got older, it was snacks and small gifts. Her appetite grew with her age. She expertly juggled a school of admirers, reaping the benefits from each of them. Boys bought her expensive gifts to win her over, like the new iPhone for Zach. Her greed had become insatiable, her sense of entitlement absolute. Alex could casually donate $500,000 to strangers, which meant his sugar mama was incredibly rich and doted on him. $1 million was nothing to him, just a little sweet talk away, right? She needed that money. She was about to start college and meet even more impressive guys. She needed to package herself properly to increase her chances of landing a real rich kid. Her family couldn't afford that lifestyle. She needed that $1 million. She never imagined that a single, impulsive thought would lead to this. She could face jail time. Her bright future, her college life, would be gone. Her reputation would be ruined. Her life was over. Fear and resentment twisted her face into an ugly mask, erasing any trace of the ethereal beauty she usually projected. She started screaming, pointing an accusing finger at Zach and the other students who had stood by her. "It's all your fault. I was just joking with Alex. You're the ones who said the audio was fake and made this a huge deal. You have to take responsibility for this." The group of loyal admirers, led by Zach, stared at her, dumbfounded. They had stood by her, defended her, and this was their reward? Not gratitude, but blame? Zach's entire worldview crumbled. He couldn't believe that the girl he had worshipped for 3 years was so unreasonable, so vile. His face flushed with shame and anger. He finally managed to choke out, "I was so wrong about you. You're shameless." A sense of deep satisfaction washed over Alex. Shameless. There was no better word to describe Lily Thompson. Lily's desperate attempt to shift the blame had also implicated the dean, who had been her staunchest supporter. The accusation stung, and any remaining familial loyalty he felt evaporated. He turned away, his face grim, and washed his hands of the whole affair. "Alex, I really was just joking. You can't do this to me." Lily pleaded, her voice cracking. "If I get a criminal record, my life is over. You can't do this. How about this? I'll take back what I said. I accept your confession. I'll be your girlfriend. Okay." Alex looked at her tear-and-snot-streaked face and felt so nauseated he thought he might skip dinner. Before he could respond, the driver behind him spoke up, his voice dripping with disdain. "This gentleman already has a girlfriend, one who is 1,000 times better than you. Get lost." Jake chimed in cheerfully. "That's right. My boy's taken. And even if he wasn't, he wouldn't want someone as morally bankrupt and two-faced as you." Alex just stood there. Well, his two spokesmen had said everything he wanted to say. He might as well save his breath. Finally, Lily was led away. She fought them, clinging to the doorframe, screaming, even tried to rip open her collar and threatened to accuse them of assault. It was a pathetic, spectacular meltdown. Dean Fulton's face cycled through shades of red and white. Zach stood there, lost, muttering, "That's the girl I liked for 3 years? I must be blind." Jake didn't miss the opportunity to twist the knife. "So you finally admit it? You should probably thank my boy, Alex. Otherwise, you'd still be worshipping a woman like that as your goddess. Zach's expression was indescribable. Officers, you can't just take me. Lily shrieked, playing one last desperate card. She twisted around to glare at Alex, her face a mask of pure hatred. He's shameless. He's being kept by some 50-year-old woman. It's indecent, morally corrupt. You should arrest him too. The two police officers exchanged a look. Being a kept man, while frowned upon, wasn't illegal. It wasn't their jurisdiction. Lily's outburst couldn't get Alex arrested, but it was certainly meant to humiliate him. If she was going down, she was determined to drag him down with her. You've had all this education, she screamed, and instead of trying to be a productive member of society, you decide to be a homewrecker, a male mistress, sucking up to a woman old enough to be your mother. You're a disgrace to your teachers and your parents. Alex just scoffed. You and I had the same education. Did that stop you from becoming an extortionist? Jake, standing nearby, wanted to applaud. Perfect comeback. Alex continued, his expression unruffled. And which eye did you use to see me become a homewrecker? Not only are you trying to extort me, you're also guilty of slander. He looked around at the teachers and students, his gaze finally resting on the two officers. A small smile played on his lips. Everyone here, you're all my witnesses. Lily was past caring. She was already ruined. You dare deny you have a sugar mama? She shot back. What normal girlfriend gives her boyfriend millions of dollars to spend? My money is my husband's money. A cool, clear voice cut through the air. He can spend as much as he wants. What business is it of yours? The voice was laced with the chill of a winter wind. It wasn't loud, but it carried, reaching every person in the crowd. And it held an unmistakable edge, the sound of someone who was not to be trifled with. Everyone turned in stunned silence toward the source of the voice. A Rolls-Royce, which looked vaguely familiar, was parked near the school gate. Standing in front of a man in a formal tuxedo was a girl of breathtaking beauty. Perhaps it was because Lily's own image had been so thoroughly shattered, but when the crowd saw this new girl, their former campus queen suddenly seemed like nothing. This girl was on another level, more stunning than any actress famous for her looks. But comparing her to a celebrity felt like an insult. There was a practiced, artificial quality to stars on camera. This girl's presence was transcendent. If fairies existed, they would look like her. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the girl walked toward them, her expression unreadable. Though she looked delicate, an inexplicable wave of pressure washed over them as she approached. Some of the students instinctively took a step back. The man in the tuxedo followed a step behind her. When he reached Alex, he gave a slight bow, his posture humble as he smiled. Mr. Alex. Sophia's gaze was fixed solely on Alex. She didn't spare a single glance for anyone else, her focus so intense it was as if no one else in the world existed. Husband, she said, her brow furrowing slightly, a clear note of displeasure in her tone. Someone was bullying you. Why didn't you tell me? Alex managed a weak smile. It's nothing, just a small thing. I could handle it myself. You're so busy, I didn't want to. Excuses, Sophia interrupted him sharply. Nothing involving you is a small thing to me. Don't let it happen again. Lily stared at Sophia, speechless. She forgot to scream, forgot to struggle. Sophia's arrival made her own pathetic state feel even more humiliating. Sophia's beauty outshone hers by a million miles. Her aura was incomparable. Her presence crushed Lily's into dust. Next to Sophia, Lily, who had once prided herself on her looks and charm, was a joke. Lily's gaze was locked on Sophia, her mind replaying the words she had just used. Husband. This was Alex's new girlfriend? Not some fat, greasy old woman, but someone this young, this beautiful. All of Alex's designer clothes, the $500,000 he donated, it all came from her. Who was this girl? What was her story? Officers, Charles Harrington said, his tone firm and resolute. This woman has not only attempted to extort my young master, but she has also slandered his reputation. We ask that you handle her case with the utmost seriousness according to the law. We will not be accepting any settlements. Lily finally found her voice. She turned on Sophia with a crazed, defiant glare. What husband? What young master? Don't make me laugh. Hey you, did you know he was confessing his love to me just a little while ago? Let me tell you, he's just my leftovers. I don't care who you are. You're just picking up the trash I threw away. Alex. The crowd. Dean Fulton. He had never in his life felt such a strong urge to completely disassociate himself from another human being. Lily was the first. He used to think she was a clever girl, but he now realized she was hopelessly, irredeemably stupid. Not only had she tried to extort Alex, but now, With disaster looming, she was trying to provoke this girl who was so obviously dangerous. Sophia's gaze finally fell on Lily, just for a second. Her eyes were like ice. Meeting that gaze, the frantic, raving Lily couldn't help but shiver. A voice in her head, like a sigh of doom, whispered that she had made a terrible mistake. She should never have provoked this person. Sophia's voice was quiet, almost pitying. "You poor thing," she said softly. "You threw away a diamond in the rough." Lily froze. The words hit her like a physical blow, sending a tremor through her soul. An indescribable sense of panic and regret washed over her, a feeling that she had truly, irrevocably lost something precious that should have been hers. And there was no doubt what that precious thing was. Alex. "You should be glad you're going to jail," Sophia continued, her voice dropping, taking on a chilling, bloodthirsty edge. "Otherwise—" She let the sentence hang in the air. As Lily was being led to the police car, she didn't cry or scream or fight. It was as if her soul had been ripped from her body. She momentarily forgot the legal punishment awaiting her, forgot the life she had just destroyed. In her daze, one question repeated over and over in her mind. Did I really throw away my own diamond? "Husband, let's go home," Sophia said, hooking her arm through Alex Turner's as if no one else existed. "Okay," Alex nodded, then turned to a dumbfounded Jake Ramirez. "Jake, I'm heading out." Sophia's gaze drifted over to Jake. It was a perfectly normal glance, but made the hair on Jake's neck stand up, a strange chill running down his spine. A faint smile played on Sophia's lips. "So you're the universally, invincibly—" Alex braced himself, certain she was about to say universally, invincibly shameless jerk, and sent a silent prayer for his friend's ego. Just as he was gauging Jake's ability to withstand a verbal takedown, Sophia finished her sentence coolly. "Handsome guy." A flattered, goofy grin spread across Jake's face. That's me. I'm Alex's childhood friend." "Old Alex." Sophia's brow furrowed. "My husband isn't old at all." Jake was speechless. "And another thing," Sophia continued, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Change that handsome guy username on your chat app." "Huh?" Jake asked. Sophia looked up at Alex, the ice in her eyes melting into an affection that seemed ready to overflow. "My husband is the most handsome man in the world." Now, it was Alex's turn to be speechless. Jake was utterly baffled. "Alex, when did you get married? Weren't they still underage?" Alex forced a dry laugh. "It's bound to happen. You should start saving up for the wedding gift now." Nearby, Mr. Fulton, the dean of students, had been observing the scene with a mixture of shock and suspicion. Like everyone else, he was trying to figure out who Sophia was. Based on the Rolls-Royce's local Seattle license plate, he deduced she was from the area. He ran through a mental list of every prominent family in the city. Sophia carried herself with an innate, commanding presence, an aura of someone born to rule, that couldn't be cultivated by an ordinary family. Harland Corp was the leading enterprise in Seattle, with a market value ranked in the top 10 nationwide and a growth trajectory that was nothing short of meteoric. But Mr. Fulton immediately dismissed the possibility of Sophia being from the Harland family. As far as he knew, the Harlands had 2 sons, no daughters, and the chairman, a man of integrity and warmth, was famously devoted to his wife. They were the golden couple of their circle, making an illegitimate daughter seem impossible. After cycling through every other possibility, Mr. Fulton was still at a loss. He grimaced, rubbing his jaw as if he had a toothache, then forced a smile and hesitantly approached them. What his niece had done was inexcusable, but he was still her uncle. He had to try something, or how could he face her parents? He glanced uncertainly at Sophia. His gut told him she was the one calling the shots, but she looked completely unapproachable. He decided to use the victim, Alex, as his opening. "Alex, Lily is young and foolish. Could you find in your heart to be the bigger person?" Alex cut him off. "Mr. Fulton, you're the one who always taught us to be a good person before becoming a successful one. Otherwise, we'd just be parasites on society, wasting food while we're alive and wasting land when we're dead." Mr. Fulton was notorious for his long-winded, cliché-filled lectures, earning him the affectionate nickname Captain Hallmark behind his back. You have to take responsibility for your actions. What happened to Lily today is a mess of her own making. Yes, I know she was wrong, but she's still just a kid. After this, I guarantee she'll never do it again. Alex, please just let this one go. In his desperation, Mr. Fulton blurted out the classic line, favored by every clueless parent. Alex laughed. She's just a kid? Mr. Fulton, you may not be aware, but she's 18. She's a legal adult. And if she's a kid, then I'm a kid too. But none of you were planning on letting me go a minute ago. Sensing the patience of the goddess on his arm wearing thin, Alex turned to Sophia with a smile. Let's go. Sophia shot a cold, dismissive glance at Mr. Fulton and let out a barely audible scoff. And in that moment, Alex knew. It wasn't just Lily Thompson who was in for a world of trouble. Someone else was about to have a very bad day. Sophia never forgot a slight, and she had the means to utterly crush anyone who crossed her. Once you were in her sights, the consequences were severe. Sure enough, the moment they were in the car, Sophia gave an order to Charles Harrington. Look into that obnoxious old man. Charles simply replied, "Yes, miss." Alex remained silent. First, he was self-aware enough to know he had no power to change Sophia's decisions, at least not yet. Second, he felt that Mr. Fulton, who loved to lord his authority over students, had it coming. Sophia naturally shifted closer, wrapping her arms around his waist and looking up at him. "Husband, has that old man bullied you before?" She was really getting addicted to calling him that. It was just a word, though. If she wanted to call him that, Alex figured whatever. He shook his head. He was the type of student who didn't cause trouble, but didn't shy away from it either, a model student with good grades. No matter how unreasonable Mr. Fulton could be, he had no reason to target Alex. They had stayed out of each other's way. But now Mr. Fulton had made the mistake of siding against her husband. And bullying her husband was the same as bullying her. And she was Sophia Reed. Her dictionary didn't contain phrases like, turn the other cheek, or let it go. Those were words of advice for the weak. She, it seemed, was born to do exactly as she pleased. She wanted Alex, so she'd used any means necessary to trick him into her home and keep him under her watch. She disliked someone, so she acted on it directly. Today, Mr. Fulton was an innocent casualty dragged down by his niece. He probably never imagined that by trying to defend her for a moment, he would pay such a heavy price for his own biased judgment. Sophia might be young, but her methods were ruthless. To be targeted by her meant you'd be lucky to escape with your life, even if you were skinned alive in the process. Sophia reached up, her fingers gently tracing the lines of his brows and eyes, and murmured, "Husband, you're mine. No one is allowed to bully you." Back at the school entrance, Mr. Fulton, sensing impending doom, looked as if he'd just lost a parent. He scrambled for his car, frantically making a phone call. Zach Johnson stood there, his face a mask of misery, his heart bleeding. The girl he had placed on a pedestal, the girl whose kindness and gentleness he had adored, was all a facade. More importantly, because he had consistently sided against Alex, would Alex's girlfriend let him off the hook? Cold sweat drenched him, making him feel like a fish just pulled from the water. He was trapped in a suffocating cage of fear. The few remaining students exchanged nervous glances. They were in a slightly better position than Zach, but only slightly. Each of them was breaking out in a cold sweat, anxiously trying to remember. Did I say anything? Did I jump on a bandwagon with Lily and attack Alex? After hearing Lily's tearful story, they had all wavered and taken her side. They had no idea who Alex's girlfriend was, but one look told them she was from a different world. If they had offended her, their futures could be ruined, just like Lily's. Jake Ramirez was also sweating, but unlike the others, he was ecstatic. Ha ha ha, my boy wasn't lying. His girlfriend really is gorgeous and 18. Who the hell started that rumor he was being kept by some old cougar? He felt a wave of relief, which was quickly followed by a sigh of concern. Alex's girlfriend was stunning, sure, but she also seemed intense. Mr. Ramirez, a middle-aged man with an ordinary face and a polite smile, approached him. Jake snapped back to reality. He remembered this man trailing behind the police officers earlier. Alex had thanked him, saying he was the one who called for help. "Hi, I'm Jake Ramirez," he replied. The man got straight to the point. "Do you have a driver's license?" Jake was confused. "No, I was planning on getting it this summer." "And your father?" the man asked. "My dad? Yeah, he has one." Jake trailed off, bewildered. "Can I help you with something?" "Ah, yes. My employer is very grateful that you stood firmly by Mr. Turner's side during a critical moment. As a token of her appreciation, she would like to give you a Ferrari." "A what?" Jake thought he'd misheard. "You said, give me a Ferrari." It wasn't just Jake. Every other student still lingering nearby was convinced their ears were malfunctioning. This girl's generosity was staggering. A thank you gift was a Ferrari? No wonder Alex hadn't blinked an eye when donating $50,000. It was his super-rich girlfriend backing him up. A bitter resentment began to bubble up in some of them. It was one thing for Alex's girlfriend to be incredibly wealthy, but did she have to be so beautiful, too? The world was just unfair. Why couldn't a young, gorgeous billionaire have stumbled into their lives? Others were kicking themselves. If they had known Alex had a partner like this, they would have stood by him without hesitation. Maybe they would have gotten a free Ferrari, too. The regret was so sharp it felt like a physical pain, and their hatred for the scheming Lily Thompson intensified. The middle-aged man continued. Mr. Ramirez, please come with me. I'll take you to pick up the car. Jake, who had barely ever found a $20 bill on the street, felt his brain short-circuit for a full 3 seconds. This massive, unexpected windfall left him dizzy. This is too much. Your boss is too kind. Jake waved his hands frantically. Who would want a free prize like this? Jake wouldn't pretend to be some noble saint. He dreamed of a life of lazy luxury, just like anyone else. But when that dream actually fell into his lap, he froze. He was too scared to accept it. He had a strange feeling that if he took this Ferrari, it would be like selling out his friend. I love money and I love cars, but I value my friendship with Alex more, he said, his voice earnest. He's my brother. I'd do anything for him, and I didn't even do that much. This gift is too extravagant. Really, it's not necessary. As he spoke, a thought struck him. The girl had only shown up after everything was settled. How did she know he had stood firmly by Alex's side? A chilling possibility dawned on him, and a fresh wave of cold sweat broke out. This car was definitely not something he should take. The middle-aged man looked troubled. Young man, I'm just an employee. Taking you to get the Ferrari is one of the tasks my employer assigned me. Please, don't make my job difficult. Alex was just getting to his apartment building when Jay called. Sophia had originally planned to meet his parents today, but the incident at school had delayed things. They were making up for it now. You're giving Jake a Ferrari? Alex asked, surprised. Sophia hummed, letting go of his waist and sitting up straight to survey the surroundings. Compared to the top-tier mansion she lived in, this place looked like the slums. What? He doesn't like it. Then what does he like? I'll have Mr. Low arrange it. Besides Charles, this was the second man Alex had heard her refer to with a formal title. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The way her mind worked was on a completely different plane from everyone else's. It's not about whether he likes it or not, Alex explained. It's too much. Sophia's tone was dismissive, a perfect reflection of her immense wealth. It's just a car. It's not a big deal. Tell him to take it. I don't like being indebted to people. Alex was speechless. Indebted? When were you ever indebted to Jake? You just met him, you barely exchanged 2 words. If anyone owes him anything, it's me. He's my friend. He had my back today when I was in trouble, and I'd have his back if he were ever in a jam. That's what being friends is about. But it was no use. Anything related to him was now automatically Sophia's business. Jake defending him was a debt Sophia felt she had to repay, and she had to repay it with a Ferrari, turning a simple act of friendship into a high-stakes transaction. Sophia placed her hands on his shoulders, making him meet her gaze. Are you afraid to let him accept it because you think I'll use things like this to trap you by my side? Or is it that you don't want our lives to become too entangled? Alex opened his mouth to respond. Honestly, it was both. He decided to be direct. Sophie, don't get mad, but I don't get it. I still have no idea what you see in me. I'm just a normal guy. There are so many people out there who are better than me. I don't know if you'll keep liking me. I'm afraid one day you'll get tired of me, hate me, and tell me to get lost. But by then, I'll owe you so much. How could I ever pay you back? Sophia raised 2 slender fingers and gently pressed them against his lips. Alex, if you're worried I'll get tired of you, I can tell you right now. That day will never come. She spoke with a solemnity that was both a promise and a statement of fact. You don't owe me anything. What's mine is yours. And you must belong completely to me. Understand? A storm of conflicting emotions churned inside Alex. To me, money and power are just things. Only you, she said softly, are the treasure I need to hold on to for a lifetime. If those were words of love, they would have been beautiful. But coming from Sophia, they sent a shiver of fear through Alex, mixed with a deep sense of frustration. He still hadn't gotten her to tell him why. Back at the school gate, Jake stared at the text message Alex had just sent him, speechless for a long moment. The message was simple. If she's giving it to you, just take it. Jake wanted to scream. Take it? How could he possibly take it? It was a Ferrari. Even with his friend's go-ahead, Jake couldn't bring himself to accept it. In the end, the middle-aged man had to gently but firmly guide him away. The remaining students watched them leave, their minds reeling. A Ferrari, a car most people couldn't afford, even if they worked their entire lives. And Jake hadn't done anything but stand up and say a few words for Alex. It was proof that poverty truly limited one's imagination. They just couldn't comprehend the casual extravagance of the rich. Alex's girlfriend had to be some kind of money goddess, the type with more cash than she knew what to do with. They were drowning in a sea of regret and envy, a feeling that wouldn't fade for years. No, for students like them, with no connections or special talents, an opportunity to get noticed by someone like Alex's girlfriend was a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. This wasn't something they'd get over in 3 or 5 years. It was something they'd regret for the rest of their lives. Jake squatted by the curb, dialing his dad's number in a daze. Dad. Yeah, I know, click. His dad hung up. A moment later, Jake received a notification for a $500 transfer. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He called back, but his dad didn't answer. Defeated, he called his mom. The second the call connected, his mother's booming voice assaulted his eardrums. Don't think I don't know your father, just sent you $500. I'm making him scrub the grout with a toothbrush tonight. That man spoils you rotten. Mom, I need to tell you, don't you tell me anything. First, you tell me where you're messing around right now. If I remember correctly, you had over $1,000 in your account yesterday. Why are you asking for more money today? I didn't ask for money. Jake protested, feeling deeply wronged. His dad had just assumed and sent it. How was that his fault? Mom, just listen. Who are you messing around with today? If you don't give me a straight answer, you can join your father in scrubbing the bathrooms tonight. Jake chuckled weakly. Mom, did you forget? I don't have any friends besides Alex. His mom's tone softened instantly. Oh, you with Alex? Well, that's a relief. Jake glanced at the blindingly expensive car next to him and winced. Mom, is Dad there with you? Put him on. I have something urgent to tell him. Anything you need to say, you can say to me. Okay, but please, whatever you do, don't get too excited. I got Dad that Ferrari he's always dreamed of. You need to tell him to come pick it up. His mom scoffed. What a Ferrari? A toy model, you mean? You little brat? I'm swamped here. I don't have time for your nonsense. I'm hanging up. Wait, don't. Jake cried out in desperation. He couldn't really blame her for not believing him. He was still in a fog himself, squatting on the curb for ages before it even occurred to him to call his dad to come get the car. After much pleading and promising, his mother, worn down by his persistence, finally relented. With a final threat of, if you're yanking my chain, you just wait till you get home, she agreed to let his dad come take a look. His father, David Ramirez, arrived on a beat-up moped, a huge grin on his face. Son, I knew I didn't spoil you for nothing. You knew I was suffering and saved me, so I could get some fresh air. Jake stared at him blankly. His family owned a small supermarket just outside their neighborhood. It wasn't exactly making them rich enough for Jake to live the life of a decadent heir, but it paid the bills with enough left over for a modest vacation now and then. Recently, Jake's maternal grandmother had come to stay for a couple of months. She was the restless type, always tidying up the store, and like many older people, she loved to ramble. His mom, Maria, would get fed up and snap at her, but his dad, being the son-in-law, could only listen with a smile. The old lady, wary of her short-tempered daughter, saved all her lectures for her good-natured son-in-law. When Jake had called, his grandmother had just been revving up for a marathon monologue. His dad, who had secretly complained to Jake about it before, naturally assumed his son's urgent call was a rescue mission. Moved, he added, not without a hint of self-preservation, but if your mom buys those pineapples, you're kneeling on them yourself. Holy crap, whose car is that? It nearly blinded me. Jake remained squatting on the curb, watching with a cool detachment as his father, a man who was usually a bit of a smooth talker but was deep down completely whipped, gawked like a kid who'd never seen a nice car before. His eyes gleamed as he circled a brand-new silver Ferrari, his expression a mixture of yearning and awe, which finally dissolved into a wistful sigh. Guess your old man will never get to drive a car this nice. Maybe in the next life. As he lamented, he noticed his son was smiling a mysterious, knowing smile. Don't be so pessimistic, Dad, Jake said calmly. He slowly stood up, tossed something to his father, and jutted out his chin. Come on, take me for a spin. His dad stared dumbly at the car keys in his hand, then looked back at the magnificent car, utterly confused. He slapped his smirking son on the back. What are you dreaming about in the middle of the day? Where'd you get these keys? They look real. As if it were a fun new toy, he pressed the unlock button on the fob. The Ferrari chirped in response. His dad's face went slack. He watched, stunned, as his son shook his head in mock exasperation, opened the car door, slid inside, and lowered the window. With an impossibly cool gesture, Jake beckoned to his petrified father. Dad, if I had a license, you think I'd be letting you drive? Come on, stop staring. It's ours. His father, after a long moment of shock, managed to get out 2 words. Bull. Shit. It's really ours, Jake said, his voice sounding a little distant even to himself. I know it's hard to believe. Honestly, I can't believe it either, but it's registered in my name now. Someone gave it to me. His dad stared at him suspiciously for a long moment, then blurted out, "Bullshit. How come nobody ever gave me one?" This was followed by a shocking accusation. "Jake Ramirez, you tell me the truth right now. Did you get yourself a sugar mama?" Jake was taken aback. He touched his own face and said in a gloomy tone, "Well, I think I'm pretty handsome, but so far no sugar mamas have noticed me. What should I do?" "Then where did this Ferrari come from?" "I already told you," Jake sighed. "Someone gave it to me. It was a gift from Alex Turner's girlfriend." His dad was even more confused. "What? Alex's girlfriend gave it to you? Wait, when did Alex get a girlfriend? And why would she give a car to you? If she was going to buy one for someone, wouldn't it be Alex?" Jake looked at his father's bewildered expression and let out a world-weary laugh. Just as he was about to explain, a high-pitched voice called out, "Wow, Jake, that guy really bought you a Ferrari? Is this it? It's so cool." Jake looked up to see Jenna Miller walking over with 3 or 4 other students. After he'd been led away by the middle-aged man, the remaining students, including Jenna, had stood around in a state of stunned regret. Someone had voiced their doubt. "That's a Ferrari, man. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. You really think someone would just give it away?" "I believe it," another had replied. "Did you see what Alex was wearing? That was a 7-figure outfit. Easy. And he donated 50 grand like it was nothing. A car that costs a few $100,000 is probably like buying a handbag for people like that. We can't even imagine it." That sentiment only deepened their regret, making their insides churn with jealousy. They were desperate to know if the car was real. All of them, except for a distraught Zach Johnson, who felt like his life was over and had numbly hailed a cab home, had decided to come see the spectacle for themselves. Jake felt a surge of annoyance at the sight of Jenna and the others. When his friend was being falsely accused, not a single one of them had spoken up for him. They just stood there, craning their necks to watch the drama unfold. Now, they were showing up here? He'd be damned if he believed it was a coincidence. "Yeah, you saw her," Jake said coolly. "She's a big shot. You think she'd just say something like that to mess with me?" His words landed like a punch to the gut. Jenna and the others felt a pang of psychological imbalance, more painful than losing $1 billion. There were plenty of rich people in the world, but whimsical, impulsive rich people who handed out supercars as gifts were rare. And what had Jake done? Just said a few words in Alex's defense? Why was the world so unfair? If they had known, they would have been Alex's best friends. They quickly realized they hadn't just missed out on a supercar. They had lost a connection to someone like Alex's girlfriend, an invaluable piece of social capital. They were all adults now, and even the most naive among them understood how crucial networking was for their futures. A person who could casually gift a sports car was someone at the very top of the social ladder. With their help, success would be practically guaranteed. Jake saw the envy burning in his old classmates' eyes. A flicker of smugness rose in him, but he quickly suppressed it. It was pointless. The car was a gift. He hadn't earned it. There was nothing to be proud of. He was about to tell his still-dazed father to get in the car, so they could leave when Jenna spoke up, her voice dripping with envy. "Jake, I've never been in a Ferrari before. Can I just sit in it for a second?" Jake shot his dad a look, urging him into the driver's seat, and gave Jenna a fake smile. "Sorry, we're kind of busy. We have to go." As they drove, Jake recounted the day's events. His father shook his head in disbelief at Lily's actions, wondering what had gone wrong with kids these days. When he heard that Alex's girlfriend of only a few days had insisted on giving his son a Ferrari to express her gratitude, he began to question reality itself. His hands gripped the steering wheel as he took the car on the highway and did a full loop around Seattle, feeling an incredible rush. He heard his own voice ask, "So this car is really ours?" "Yeah." By now, Jake's initial excitement had faded into a calm acceptance. "Your mom and I always said Alex would be more successful than you," his dad began. "Don't give me that look. It's not that we don't have faith in you. But be honest, when you compare yourself to Alex, don't you feel like you fall short?" Jake didn't answer. It stung, but it was the truth. Whether it was being less trouble or getting better grades, Alex was the kid his parents always used as a benchmark to motivate him. Look how well-behaved Alex is. Look how disciplined he is with his studies. If it had been anyone else, Jake probably would have jumped them in a dark alley. But it was Alex, so it was fine. Their friendship could withstand anything. They say you can tell a person's future from their childhood, his dad mused. Alex always seemed like he was destined for great things. But he's so quiet, and I never heard you mention him being close to any girls. I thought he was going to end up a bachelor right alongside you. Turns out the kid excels at everything, especially picking girlfriends. Jake was speechless. "But we can't accept this car," his dad said, his tone suddenly serious. "I'll drive it around to get out of my system, but that's it. You stood up for your friend, and that's what you're supposed to do. Your friendship is worth more than any amount of money. What does it look like taking a supercar from a stranger for no reason? Jake grimaced. Tell me about it. I didn't want it, but they basically dragged me here. Then I called Alex, and he told me to just take it. It's not like I'm trying to be greedy. I just didn't have a choice. I felt like if I didn't take it, that guy, who's probably your age, was going to get on his knees and beg me. His dad clicked his tongue. He had lived a decent life, but it was a life spent hovering around the middle class. He couldn't comprehend the world of the ultra-rich. After a long pause, he sighed. I can tell that rich girl really cares about Alex. Jake didn't respond. He thought silently. Cares? It's more than that. It's like she wants to chain him to her side, so he can never leave. His dad's thoughts drifted elsewhere. And you little punk, being so dismissive back there. You'll be lucky if you don't end up alone. I'm warning you. Your mother and I only have one son. You can't stay single forever. We want grandchildren, you know. Jake scoffed. You're talking about Jenna Miller, aren't you? Jenna wasn't as famously beautiful as Lily, but she was still very pretty. When they first started high school, Jake had a secret crush on the cheerful, outgoing girl for a while. For a time, she was always smiling at him, finding excuses to be near him, and he was ecstatic, thinking his time had finally come. But when she started casually asking about Alex, he belatedly realized her interest lay elsewhere. Jake felt a pang of disappointment for himself, but was also happy for his friend. However, not long after, Jenna's enthusiasm for Alex completely vanished. Jake puzzled over it for days before he figured it out. Her attitude had changed right after he'd unintentionally let it slip how modest his friend's family finances were. Fearing he would hurt his friend's pride, Jake never told Alex that a girl had once been interested in him only to heartlessly dump him later. From that day on, Jake couldn't stand the sight of Jenna Miller. Hello, Mr. Ramirez. While Alex was on the balcony taking the call, Sophia paced back and forth inside his family's small, 650-square-foot apartment. She examined every nook and cranny, taking it all in. So this is where Alex grew up? Accustomed to sprawling mansions, a pang of sympathy hit her. He's so tall. How do you not feel cramped living here? She stood in the living room, facing the master bedroom where the balcony was located. She could see Alex's tall, strong silhouette, and the sight seemed to soothe the dark, restless corner of her soul. Her mood gradually calmed. Mr. Ramirez, please don't say that. What my girlfriend wants is what I want. There's no yours and mine between us. Is it more valuable than my friendship with Jake? It's just a material thing. It's not worth mentioning. Sophia scoffed silently. It seemed her simple gift of a car had caused Alex nothing but trouble. Then again, the incident had shown her that Alex's friend and his family weren't like some of the people she'd encountered. They weren't greedy. Their affection for Alex was genuine and unconditional, a refreshing change from the sycophants she was used to. As a memory surfaced, the softness that Alex's silhouette had brought to her eyes instantly hardened back into ice. By the time Alex, having firmly told Jake's father that a gift given is never taken back, ended the call and came back inside, Sophia was no longer on the living room couch. She had come to gracefully meet his parents, but so far they hadn't appeared. Alex had forgotten to call ahead and found the apartment empty when he arrived. His father, of course, was at work, but it was strange that his mother, Emily, wasn't there. Due to health issues, Emily Turner was a homemaker. Her daily routine was fixed. She'd go out in the morning to buy fresh groceries, chat with neighbors on her way back, and spend the rest of the day at home. A quick phone call revealed that a neighbor's child had suddenly come down with a high fever. With the parents out of town on business, the child's grandmother had panicked and called Emily for help. The child was now at the hospital on a 4-drip, and the grandmother couldn't manage alone, so Emily had kindly stayed to help. Alex searched the small apartment and quickly found Sophia. His bedroom was adjacent to the kitchen across from the master bedroom. During the day, his mother would open his curtains and windows to let in fresh air. Even when he wasn't there, his room was kept spotless. Compared to the luxurious suite prepared for him at Sophia's mansion, this tiny room felt oppressively small, almost unfit for human habitation. And yet, it was the place Alex dreamed of returning to. Sophia was there, sitting barefoot on his bed, leaning against the headboard and quietly looking out the window. Alex had looked at that same view for over a decade. There was nothing special about it, just another old, peeling apartment building, a grid of windows, and a sliver of sky blocked by the 7-story structure. Yet she seemed completely captivated, lost in the sight. The scene struck Alex as surreal. Sophia was a symbol of power and wealth. Everything about her screamed ultimate luxury. Yet here she was, in his family's modest 2-bedroom apartment, peacefully gazing at a thoroughly uninteresting view, seamlessly blending into the backdrop of his former life. It was a bizarre feeling, He walked over. With two people in it, the small room instantly felt crowded, even with one of them on the bed. Hearing him approach, Sophia turned her head and smiled. The coldness in her eyes was gone. She shifted over, patting the space beside her. Alex obediently sat down, took off his plastic slippers just as she had, and stretched his legs out on the bed next to hers. He leaned back against the headboard, and before he could get comfortable, Sophia leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder and wrapping her arms around his. Alex felt that even though Sophia had stopped using physical chains, the invisible ones were pulling tighter every day. She loved physical contact with him, hugging him, holding his arm, or at the very least, holding his hand. But it wasn't just the clingy intimacy of a couple. A strange thought had occurred to him before. It was as if he were some kind of power source for her. When her energy was low, she would draw near to recharge. This wasn't just wishful thinking. It was a subconscious conclusion he'd drawn from her behavior. "What are you looking at?" "The same view you used to see every day," she murmured. "It makes me feel closer to you." Alex knew what she meant, but he deliberately misinterpreted it, joking, "You don't think I'm close enough to you right now?" She muttered softly, "Not enough." Alex didn't know what to say. He had gone from being a free-flying bird to a caged sparrow, forced to circle around her, available at her beck and call. Wasn't that enough? How much more control did she need before it was enough? His mind was a tangled mess. Suddenly, he heard Sophia whisper, a note of deep regret in her voice. "You were in Seattle this whole time. If only I had known you were so close, I—" Her unfinished sentence hung in the air, but Alex heard the unspoken words. If she had known he was in Seattle, she would have come for him long ago. She wouldn't have waited for that chance encounter on the street. She seemed to be mourning all the years of his life she had missed. As the weight of her words settled in, Alex froze. He began to analyze the implications silently. One thing was certain. He and Sophia had met before, and she hadn't known he was a Seattle native. From this, Alex deduced a crucial clue. Their past encounter must have happened somewhere other than Seattle. Besides Seattle, the place he visited most often was his grandmother's house, followed by a few family vacations out of state. The sun shone brightly outside, the sky a brilliant blue. Inside the clean, tidy room, Alex sat half reclined on his full-size bed, a beautiful, delicate-looking girl nestled in his arms. Just looking at the scene, one would think he had won at life. But this winner was currently playing detective, desperately sifting through his memories. His search led him, inevitably, to that one summer at his grandmother's house, to the memory of the little kid who, even now, made his heart ache with concern, wondering how they were doing. A jolt went through Alex. A sudden, bewildering thought struck him. Why had he been so certain that kid was a boy? Was it because of the buzz cut, shorter than any he'd ever seen on a girl? Or the bumpy, rash-covered skin that seemed so out of place on a young girl's face? Memories of his time with the little kid flooded his mind, leaving him more confused than ever. If Sophia was that runaway boy from all those years ago, but wasn't she a delicate flower, raised in a gilded cage? That child, what she's been through to get where she is today. She's had it so hard. Charles Harrington's long, weary sigh echoed in his ears, seeming to travel across time itself. In his past life, the humiliation he'd suffered had made him scorn everything about Sophia. Even now, that feeling hadn't changed. He still firmly believed that no matter how hard her life had been, he wasn't the cause of it. Why should he be forced to sacrifice his own well-being to accommodate her? But people grow. Alex now understood that you can't always get what you want in life. The weak, especially, have to learn to read the room and go with the flow. What a painful lesson. Charles's sigh and certain fragmented memories clicked together with an almost magical certainty. The moment the thought impossible popped into his head, it was almost immediately replaced by the conviction that Sophia was that little boy. The feeling was so strong he didn't even need to dredge up more evidence to support it. As the realization washed over him, Alex felt a mix of excitement and confusion. He glanced down at Sophia, who had lost interest in the view. She had shifted, wrapping an arm around his waist and resting her cheek on his chest. Her eyes closed lazily, as if his steady heartbeat were a lullaby. Question after question flooded his mind as the memories of that summer became crystal clear. The little boy had been stubborn at first, possessing a pride that seemed too old for his age. He was like a frightened fawn, hiding silently in the corner, watching Alex with big, beautiful eyes full of tension and wariness. Perhaps it was the dense, ugly rash on his face that made those dark eyes seem as bright as stars. Even today, Alex could still remember how striking they were. He had instinctively looked past the toadskin mask, drawn in by those eyes. Only after he had proven he meant no harm, after the kid had felt his kindness, did he slowly let down his guard, accept Alex's help, and become his friend. Once they were familiar with each other, he'd see a deep reluctance in those beautiful eyes whenever he had to leave for the night. The kid clearly didn't want him to go, but that stubborn pride kept him from saying a word. He would just watch Alex leave, his unspoken plea hanging in the air. Back in his own bed, Alex would toss and turn, unable to sleep. The image of those eyes burned into his mind. Eventually, he started waiting for everyone else to fall asleep. Then he'd sneak out with his bamboo sleeping mat and climb the wall into the neighbor's abandoned yard. Just as he expected, he'd find the little boy curled up on the ground, wide awake. They would lie side by side on the mat, spread over the hard concrete, grinning foolishly at each other before drifting off to sleep. Then, just before sunrise, they would scramble back to their respective places. For several days, this became their secret routine, a duty Alex felt he had to perform. He felt responsible for this strange kid who had appeared out of nowhere. Recalling this, Alex felt a wave of complicated emotions, tinged with bitterness. If that little boy was indeed a young Sophia, and by now, he was certain it was, then setting aside the question of why a pampered heiress would end up in the rural backwater of his grandmother's town, he had, by any measure, done a good deed. When she ran into him on the street years later, any decent person would have been overcome with gratitude. She should have treated him like she treated Jake, throwing a supercar he could never afford at him, or some other form of wealth. Instead, she tricked him and locked him up. Wasn't that repaying kindness with cruelty? Alex was deeply frustrated, struggling to calm his racing thoughts. It turned out this twisted fate he had with Sophia was something he had brought upon himself. What a cruel joke. He still felt wronged. No wonder people were so cynical these days. It was true what they said, no good deed goes unpunished. He couldn't help but imagine. If he had known then what he knew now, he would have stayed home after his cousin dragged him away that day. He never would have gotten involved. His mind was in turmoil. His feelings about Sophia were fractured. One moment, he couldn't understand why a sick child would run away from home, collapsing pitifully by a riverbank and hiding in an abandoned farmhouse, and he felt a surge of pity for her. The next, he felt her actions towards him were a gross betrayal, utterly heartless. His chaotic thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a door opening. Alex was certain the sound had been soft, but Sophia, who had been dozing against him, seemed startled awake. Her body went rigid, but when she looked up and saw his face, the tension and panic in her eyes receded like a tide, replaced by her usual calm composure. His father, Michael Turner, peered into the open bedroom doorway with a confused expression, just in time to see the two of them hastily getting off the bed. He froze for a second, then quickly turned away, pretending not to have seen anything. "Dad," Alex said, walking out of the room. Michael grunted a quiet, shooting a sharp, reprimanding look in his son's direction. Alex winced. Okay, his dad had definitely gotten the wrong idea. But given how he and Sophia had just looked, even the most innocent person would have jumped to conclusions. His upstanding father probably thought he'd been taking advantage of the girl. Alex stepped slightly to the side, allowing Sophia to come into his father's view. "Dad, this is my girlfriend, Sophia." Sophie, for short. Alex was sure his mother had already told his father what he'd said on the phone, so beyond the initial shock of catching them, Michael didn't seem overly surprised. Sophia stood there quietly, smiled at Michael, and offered a polite greeting that made her seem just like any other girl her age. "Hello, sir." Michael's gaze rested on Sophia, subtly appraising her. She wasn't what he had imagined. She was prettier and far more polite. Like most people, his image of wealthy heirs was shaped by television dramas, where they were invariably portrayed as spoiled, willful, and difficult. So when his wife, Emily, had told him about their son's surprising new relationship, he, too, had been worried about the vast social gap between them. Michael had been planning to find a moment to have a serious talk with his son, who had been so monopolized by this heiress that even his own parents could barely see him. But then, just before leaving work, he'd received a phone call that had left him stunned and unsettled. He came home to find not only his son there, but his girlfriend as well. And they were on the bed together. They had only known each other for a few days, and they were already at this stage. Michael wasn't the type of father who would be secretly proud of his son's romantic conquests. On the contrary, he felt that the values they had tried to instill in Alex, respect for elders, kindness to all, and especially respect for women, had been a failure. As parents, they held traditional values, but were also open-minded. They weren't against their son dating, even if it was too early. They wouldn't have reacted with anger, but with guidance. The problem was Alex had always been so easygoing, so sensible, that he seemed to have skipped a rebellious phase entirely, never giving them a chance to practice their parenting skills. He never expected that at 18, his son would finally give him something to worry about. Dating was one thing, but dating an heiress from a world a million miles away from theirs was another. He and Emily had agreed that since they were both young, they'd just see how things went. But he hadn't expected things to progress this quickly, all the way to the bedroom. With Sophia present, Michael couldn't scold his son. He returned her smile warmly, but then a thought occurred to him, and his expression turned a bit strange. He decided to be direct. I got a call from Mr. Ramirez before I came home. He was speaking to Alex. Alex immediately knew what was coming. That one Ferrari was still causing a stir. But then again, any normal person who received a gift worth hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the blue wouldn't be able to just accept it calmly. Your friend's father told me. Michael paused, now looking at Sophia. He said you. If I heard correctly, your name is Sophia? You gave Jake Ramirez a Ferrari. Sophia nodded calmly. Yes, sir, you may not be aware, but Alex had a very difficult day today. Hearing this, Michael looked at his son with a pang of sympathy. Jake's father had briefly mentioned the incident while explaining the bizarre Ferrari story, but he didn't have all the details. All he knew was that his son had been deeply wronged. Sophia was still speaking, so out of politeness, Michael held back his questions and listened attentively. Jake stood by him the entire time. I was very grateful, so I gave him a car to thank him. Michael was speechless. The way this young girl said, I gave him a car to thank him, sounded as casual as if she'd said, I said thank you. It's true what they say about staying in your own lane, he thought. Otherwise, you can't even have a conversation. We're not on the same level at all. As Michael struggled for words, Sophia added with a disarming innocence, Sir, it's just a car. Please tell them not to worry about it. Oh well, Michael murmured, utterly shocked by her casual display of wealth. Or are you worried that if Alex and I break up, I'll ask for it back, or hold it against him? Michael was again at a loss for words. This girl was so direct, it was disarming. Sophia's eyes curved into a smile as she glanced at Alex. Then, right in front of his father, she boldly declared her intentions. That won't happen, sir. I will never be apart from Alex. I've chosen him for life. Sir, can you give us your blessing? Her expression was so earnest that a startling thought crossed Michael's mind. This girl is serious about my son. This isn't just a fleeting teenage crush. His feelings were a complex mix of pride. His son must be truly exceptional to have captured her heart. And doubt. They had only just met. Wasn't a bit early to be talking about for life. Sophia waited with a sincere, upturned face for her future father-in-law's approval. But Alex knew the truth. She didn't really care what his father's reaction was. Nothing he said would change her determination to keep Alex by her side. Asking the question was merely a gesture of respect. Of course, if she did get his parents' approval, it would be a welcome bonus. Just as Michael opened his mouth to speak, the sound of a key turning in the lock filled the air. His mother, Emily, was home. She saw Michael first. I thought you said you were working late today. Why are you home so early? She asked, surprised. Then her eyes landed on Alex and the unfamiliar girl standing beside him. She immediately knew who it was. She had just told Alex to bring the girl over sometime, and he'd done it without wasting a moment. Emily's first impression of Sophia was one of pure astonishment. This girl is beautiful. A wave of delight washed over her. She wanted to look longer, but worried about making the girl feel uncomfortable. Emily Turner had always dreamed of having a daughter, a sweet, gentle, precious girl. Unfortunately, she'd had Alex during the one-child policy era. Still, her son was a blessing. He was well-behaved and sensible. And now, 18 years later, this tall, handsome young man had brought home a soft-spoken, beautiful girl who could be her daughter-in-law. In that moment, Emily felt like her long-held dream had come true. She liked Sophia instantly. All her previous worries, the social gap, the possibility of a spoiled rich girl making her son miserable, vanished into thin air. Just then, her sweet daughter-in-law called out to her politely, "Hello, ma'am," and Emily's heart melted. "Oh, you're here. This is so sudden. We haven't prepared anything," she said, shooting Alex a mock-reproachful look. "Why didn't you mention on the phone? We don't have much food in the house. I'll go buy some now." Emily, who had just walked in, was already rushing back out the door to go grocery shopping. "That's not necessary, ma'am," Sophia said. "Whatever you have is fine." Sophia's thoughtfulness made Alex look at her with a complex expression. He knew she wasn't a naturally considerate person. She was a woman of few words, cold and distant. In his past life, he had seen a man, in his opinion, an excellent man, who who was so infatuated with her he would have torn out his own heart for her. Sophia hadn't even given him the time of day. When his persistence became annoying, she had personally beaten him up. With her foot on his chest, she had looked down at him with contempt and arrogance. As a man, you can't even beat me, she had sneered. And you have the audacity to talk about protecting me for a lifetime? Everyone talks about equality, but you all subconsciously think women need to be protected by men, that we can't survive without you. Don't disgust me with your cheap values and promises. I, Sophia Reed, am no less capable than any man. But Sophia was a bit of a hypocrite. In a fair fight, Alex, with his height and reach, might not even be a match for her. He was strong and healthy, but his life was focused on academics, not martial arts. It was understandable that he couldn't beat someone who had trained since childhood. Yet, the fiercely proud Sophia was fixated on him. At the time, Alex couldn't understand why, and her ruthless methods to keep him by her side only made him feel like a plaything. It was only now that he understood. Sophia cared about him because of their bizarre childhood encounter. He had unwittingly become her anchor. For some reason, she was terrified of losing him. Was it because she had already lost so much that she developed this obsessive need to hold on tight to anything she cared about, just to feel secure? Her actions were unfair and irrational to the innocent Alex, but his feelings were a tangled mess. He felt wronged, yet he couldn't help but wonder what she had gone through to become so extreme. Emily was torn. She was a hospitable person who always strove to make her guests feel welcome. This was her son's girlfriend's first visit. It had to be special. But it's your first time here. I can't possibly. Mom, Sophie isn't a guest. Alex cut in. Sophia turned to look at him, a smile playing in her eyes. She was clearly pleased with his choice of words. Just as a mother-in-law adores her son-in-law, Emily found herself adoring her daughter-in-law. Michael watched his wife, who was beaming at the girl with more affection than she usually showed their own son, and shook his head with a fond smile. The serious questions he'd planned to ask would have to wait. He recalled how, back when Emily was pregnant, he had also hoped for a girl. They ended up with a boy, but that wasn't so bad. He could just bring someone else's daughter home to them. And now he had. It was all a bit overwhelming. There were still some groceries left from the morning. It would be enough for a simple 4-dish meal, plenty for the 4 of them. But Emily felt it was too modest. She remembered the lasagna in the freezer. Sophie, honey, we don't have much to offer you, but Alex and I made lasagna earlier. Let me heat some up for you. Sophia glanced at Alex in surprise. You know how to make lasagna? Her teasing smile and surprised tone were a world away from the cold, formidable girl he was used to. Now, whenever Alex looked at her, he couldn't help but see the pathetic little kid from his memories. He thought about how she must have suffered as a child, and his heart softened. He even subconsciously thought that her leaving him her inheritance in his past life was a form of compensation. The debts of the past were settled in the past. Alex smiled back at her. Surprising, right? Emily playfully exposed him. Sophie, don't listen to him brag. He helped roll out the pasta, that's true. But his assembly skills are terrible. His pieces are always flat and have no filling. Mom, is that my fault? Alex protested good-naturedly. You kicked me out of the kitchen whenever I tried to help. I never get a chance to practice, right, Dad? From the kitchen, where he was washing vegetables, Michael just chuckled in response. Sophia watched them, her gaze fixed on the tiny kitchen that could barely fit 2 people. Alex, is your family always like this? She asked softly. Yeah, Alex nodded, only then noticing the look of disbelief on her face. To him, the scene of his parents working together in the kitchen, one prepping, one cooking, was the most normal thing in the world. His parents had always had a wonderful relationship. He couldn't remember them ever raising their voices at each other. What's wrong with it? Sophia looked away, her eyes downcast, hiding a flicker of sadness that had suddenly appeared. Alex had already eaten lasagna for lunch, but he could never get tired of his mother's cooking. Their apartment was too small for a dedicated dining room, so they ate at the old glass coffee table in the living room. At first, Michael and Emily were worried that Sophia, being an heiress, would be uncomfortable. But they soon realized their fears were unfounded. Sophia fit right in, showing no signs of discomfort, though it was possible she was just tolerating it because she was in the honeymoon phase with their son. Alex, is this the piece you made? As soon as Emily brought the platter of lasagna to the table, Sophia's sharp eyes spotted a sad, flat square languishing among the other plump, hearty portions. She playfully picked it up with her fork, examined it, and then took a careful bite. The first bite was mostly pasta, but the second revealed the rich, perfectly seasoned meat sauce that delighted her taste buds. His in-laws watched her expectantly, especially his mother-in-law, who looked a bit nervous. Is it good? Emily was confident in her cooking, but this was no ordinary girl. She had been raised in luxury and had tasted the finest foods. Emily's home cooking was delicious, but hardly gourmet. Under the watchful eyes of the two adults, Sophia smiled warmly and gave her honest feedback. "It's delicious." Then, surprisingly, she added a half-joking compliment. "No wonder Alex grew up to be so tall. It must be your amazing cooking. If I had eaten your food growing up, I might have grown a few more inches." The comment thrilled Emily. She smiled at Sophia, her voice gentle. "If you like it, eat more. You're too thin. A little more weight on you would look even better." Sophia met her kind, gentle gaze and faltered for a moment. She quickly looked down to hide her emotions and gave a quiet hum, putting the rest of Alex's lopsided lasagna piece in her mouth. To her, the simple, homemade meal tasted like the most exquisite delicacy in the world. Mrs. Helen, her cook, had spent years perfecting her culinary skills to help Sophia gain weight, and her cooking rivaled that of any five-star chef. But not even Mrs. Helen's food had ever made Sophia eat with such an appetite. It wasn't about the skill. It was about the taste of home she had always longed for. Sophia ate quietly, her head down. At a silent prompting from his parents, Alex put some salad on her plate. The harmonious scene was something Alex hadn't expected. Sophia wasn't a normal girl. She was powerful and aloof, surrounded by an intimidating aura. It was like a protective layer of spikes, always ready. Only when he was being good did she retract them slightly. With everyone else, even her own staff like Charles and Mrs. Helen, the spikes were always partially out, like a vigilant wild animal. He used to think it was just her aggressive personality, but now he suspected it was because she had no sense of security. He had expected her to be prickly around his parents, but to his surprise, she had retracted all her thorns, transforming into a sweet, approachable girl next door. Was she doing it for him, or was it because of his parents' kindness? Whatever the reason, Alex felt a sense of relieved surprise. His parents seemed to adore her, having fully accepted their daughter-in-law. The way things were unfolding was beyond his wildest expectations. One of Emily's greatest joys was watching people enjoy her food. A gentle smile on her lips, she watched the daughter-in-law, who seemed a bit shy on her first visit, quietly eat her dinner, her eyes overflowing with motherly love. Her belly might not have given her the daughter she'd always wanted, but her son had brought one home for her. This girl was perfect in her eyes, from head to toe, her dream daughter. Michael just shook his head and smiled. He had to admit, he liked the girl too. Standing next to his handsome son, they looked like a match made in heaven. There was just one problem: she was too rich. Didn't that mean his son was destined to be a kept man? He glanced again at the girl, eating quietly, and his minor reservations melted away. So what if he is? He thought. Other guys wish they could be. A girl this wonderful is one in a billion. If my son can win her over, that's a skill in itself. Michael spoke to Sophia, kindly. Honey, our home may not be what you're used to, but you're always welcome here. Please, make yourself at home and don't feel like you have to be formal. Sophia fought back tears, looked up at him, and smiled. Okay, I will. The meal was surprisingly warm and affectionate. Just as they were finishing up, Michael got a call and went to the balcony to take it. Alex could hear his voice, faint at first, then growing more agitated. I need to look into this. You have no proof. Don't just throw accusations around. What did you say? So your child is a precious treasure, but mine is just dirt? I'm sorry. I don't think there's anything more to discuss. If you think your daughter is innocent, then I'm sure the justice system won't punish a good kid. Alex glanced toward the balcony. His father was a mild-mannered man who rarely argued with anyone. To hear him so worked up and to hear his own name mentioned, Alex knew instantly who was on the other end of the line: Lily Thompson's family. Emily clearly sensed something was wrong, too. Who was your father talking to so loudly? She muttered, starting to get up. Alex gently pressed her shoulder, keeping her seated, and went to the balcony himself. Sophia watched him go, a thoughtful expression on her face. Her husband was in trouble? As long as she was around, no one would bully her husband. Michael Turner hung up the phone in a rage. Even for a man as good-natured as him, he couldn't help but mutter to his son, "What is wrong with these people? Dad, was that one of my classmates' parents?" Alex asked, though he already knew the answer. It had to be Lily Thompson's parents. Lily's family was in business. They weren't fabulously wealthy, but they were better off than Alex's family, solidly middle class. By chance, Alex knew a bit about her family situation. Her father was a quiet, seemingly honest man, but the year Lily went to college, he did something no honest man should do. He had an affair with a young woman from out of town who worked in a store. Amidst his wife's shrieking, scratching, and cursing, he had silently signed a divorce agreement that left him with nothing and started a new life with his young lover. Lily's mother was shrewd and materialistic, but lacked wisdom. She was the type of person who would argue a point to death, even when she was wrong. It was definitely her who had gotten his father so riled up. Michael sighed and patted his son's shoulder, his voice full of apology. Alex, why didn't you tell us what you went through today? If Mr. Ramirez hadn't called, I would have never known. Dad, I'm grown up now. I can handle these things myself, Alex said. Just ignore them. Michael thought for a moment and sighed again. His son was right. He was grown up, but this was a serious matter, and the other parents wouldn't just let it go. Ignoring them wouldn't make the problem disappear. The mother was unbelievable. Normally, when a child makes a mistake, the parents apologize profusely to the victim, hoping to gain their forgiveness and lessen the consequences for their child. Lily's father had actually started out that way, but then her mother had gotten on the phone and launched into a tirade, accusing Michael of raising his son poorly, calling Alex manipulative, vindictive, and a gold-digging freeloader. The woman's words were like machine gun fire, nearly giving Michael a heart attack. They were the victims, yet she was the one pointing fingers. Was that how you asked for a settlement? It sounded more like she wanted her daughter to go to jail faster. Michael, a man who always believed in giving people a second chance, was truly angry this time. Alex, you did nothing wrong. That girl went too far. Let the authorities handle it however they see fit. Don't you dare go soft on her. Emily, who hadn't understood what was happening, asked anxiously, "What's going on?" After learning the details, she was horrified. She couldn't believe that a girl who looked so sweet and gentle could have such a vicious mind. Her heart trembled. You mean that girl who came to our house this morning? She tried to think she had briefly fantasized about that girl becoming her daughter-in-law. Compared to Sophia, that girl was nothing. Michael didn't mention that Lily's mother had threatened him on the phone, telling him to wait and see if they didn't agree to a private settlement. He had lived an honest life, but he wasn't easily intimidated. Wait and see. Fine. They might not have power or influence, but they wouldn't let their child be bullied. Sir, you don't have to worry. I'll handle this, Sophia said to Michael, her voice remarkably calm. Michael was taken aback. Seeing her serious expression, he quickly said, No, child, this has nothing to do with you. We can handle it. No, it has everything to do with me, Sophia interrupted, looking at Alex. The reason his classmate targeted him is inextricably linked to me. If she hadn't given Alex that mission to spend $1 million, he wouldn't have revealed his newfound wealth to his classmates, and Lily would have never targeted him. Alex spoke up honestly. It has nothing to do with you. She's just greedy. No, that's not what I'm talking about, Sophia said, giving him a deep look. Alex immediately understood her meaning. Then he heard her say to his parents, in a perfectly serious tone, Alex is my future husband. Anyone who bullies him is bullying me. Michael and Emily were speechless. Was this how kids were these days? So direct, so bold? They remembered their own courtship, sneaking around, afraid to let anyone know. They must be getting old. Hearing a young girl declare their precious son her future husband to their faces was an adjustment. Sophia, oblivious to their complex feelings, continued with her usual decisiveness. Sir, ma'am, it's settled. Don't worry about this. Just eat, relax. I'll take care of everything. Alex knew her well. He knew she was more than capable of handling this, so he readily accepted her offer, feeling a sense of relief. The problem was his parents didn't know her. They knew she came from a very wealthy family, but she was still just a kid. It was their duty as parents to handle their son's problems. To have someone else suddenly take over was disorienting. But the girl who had seemed so sweet and gentle just moments before suddenly radiated an aura of absolute authority. In their stunned silence, they found themselves nodding, inexplicably agreeing to her terms. Long after the luxurious car, so out of place in their rundown neighborhood, had disappeared from view, Emily finally sank onto the couch, feeling dazed and a little lost. Michael, she said, I feel like we just married off our son without even realizing it. He just left with another family's girl, and my heart feels so empty. Michael was silent for a long moment. Then he chuckled, gently teasing her. Oh, stop pretending. You don't have to put on an act for me. I know you're not sad about Alex leaving. You're sad about Sophia leaving, aren't you? Oh, Michael, that girl, Sophia, she's wonderful. Emily sighed contentedly. She's beautiful. She has a good personality. She's perfect. I must have done something right in my life. Michael threw some cold water on her enthusiasm. It's a little early for all that. Don't forget how young they are. At their age, anything can happen. Emily Turner wasn't the least bit discouraged or annoyed by her husband's dose of cold water. She just smiled. But Sophie said she's only got eyes for our silly son for the rest of her life. Don't tell me you didn't catch that. Michael Turner was speechless. Teenage romances are rarely built to last. Young hearts are immature, and over the long, temptation-filled years, even the most passionate promises and vows of eternal love can prove as fragile as a candle in the wind, easily extinguished. Yet, when Sophia Reed declared with such certainty that Alex Turner was the only one for her, for life, no one doubted her commitment would stand the test of time. She was so earnest, so resolute, that her words carried an undeniable weight, a sense that if she said it, she would do it. Emily sighed dreamily. What do you think our son did in a past life? Save the world. How else could he have met a girl as wonderful as Sophie? She continued, when he first told me, I was a little worried. With the huge gap between our families, I was afraid he'd get hurt in such an unequal relationship. But now I see I was worried for nothing. Michael looked at her thoughtfully. You still don't know, do you? Emily was confused. No, what? Looks like the kids didn't tell you. Michael let out a sudden, self-deprecating laugh. Well, you'd better prepare yourself. You're going to have to get used to the way your billionaire daughter-in-law does things. He leaned in. To thank Jake for defending our son, she just gave him a luxury car. Emily's jaw dropped. She what? In their small but cozy two-bedroom apartment, a couple who had never seen that kind of wealth stared at each other, wide-eyed. It's filthy and it stinks in here. I'll go crazy if I have to stay another minute. At the detention center, on the other side of a cold, solid barrier, Lily Thompson was sobbing her heart out. Mom, Dad, you have to get me out of here. I can't spend the night in this place. I can't get convicted. My life will be ruined. I might as well just die right now. She gripped the bars. You have to find a way to get me out. That bastard Alex Turner, she shrieked. I was just joking with him, and he had to make a federal case out of it and land me in here. That petty, shameless loser, just because I rejected him. If I can't go to college because of this, I'll make him pay for the rest of my life. Lily, her father, Robert Thompson, began hesitantly, having been unable to get a word in. I heard from your cousin. Did you, but did you not, try to extort your class? What extortion? Before he could finish, his sharp-tongued wife, Susan, cut him off. Her eyes were blazing, as if she wanted to swallow her husband whole. Whose side are you on, anyway? Are you that little punk's father, or your daughter's? Didn't you hear her? She was joking with Alex Turner. It was that little bastard who blew it all out of proportion to ruin our baby girl. Robert stammered. I'm just trying to be realistic. That video. What about the video? Isn't there a saying, don't believe everything you see? Just because you saw it doesn't make it true. Besides, even if her daughter asked for $100 million, did that little punk give it to her? Not a single dime, right? So she's innocent. Susan's voice rose to a fever pitch. If she's innocent, why did he call the cops? Why did they arrest her? I'll tell you why. It's that rich sugar mama he's with. She's jealous he used to like our daughter, so she paid off people here to destroy her. The officer, standing nearby, rolled his eyes. Like mother, like daughter. Now he understood how a girl could stand there with irrefutable evidence against her and still act more wronged than a saint on trial. Professionalism kept him from saying anything. Robert Thompson was clearly a man accustomed to yielding to his wife's tyranny. He held his tongue for a long moment before muttering. That's not what I meant. I'm just saying we have to deal with the source of the problem. We should talk to Alex Turner, try to get him to drop the charges. Then maybe our daughter can. What are you trying to say? It's clearly that Turner kid who wronged our daughter, and you want us to go groveling to him? That's basically admitting she's guilty. Susan's voice dripped with scorn. I know what you're really thinking, even if you don't say it. You wish our daughter would just disappear so you can finally get the son you always wanted to carry on the family name, don't you? Robert, who had always doted on Lily, was left speechless. Lily cried even harder. Daddy, I didn't do anything wrong. I will never admit to something I didn't do. The young police officer sighed. It was clear the father was the only rational one in the family. The other two were completely unreasonable. A profound conclusion formed in his mind. Marry someone with sense. The chaotic shouting was giving him a headache. He glanced at the clock and said flatly, Time's up. Visiting hours are over. Please leave. Susan shot a furtive look around before quickly pulling an envelope from her purse and trying to shove it into the officer's hand. Officer, my daughter's been pampered her whole life. She's never spent a night away from us. Look, can't you just look the other way? Let her come home with us tonight. She leaned in conspiratorially. Don't worry, I'll bring her back first thing in the morning. No one will ever know. The young officer stared at her. Okay, so she's not just an aggressive shrew or legally ignorant. She's genuinely delusional. He pulled his hand back, his face hardening. Ma'am, I suggest you watch what you're doing. Attempting to bribe a public official is a serious crime. I'm so sorry, officer. She's just upset and not thinking straight. Please don't take it seriously, Robert said, smiling apologetically as he quickly pulled his embarrassing wife away. Susan struggled. Hey, what are you doing? After nearly 20 years of being browbeaten by his domineering wife, the mild-mannered man finally snapped. Susan, that is enough. Susan froze, staring at the husband who had dared to shout at her. A moment later, she let out a theatrical wail. Why is my life so miserable? How could I have been so blind to marry a useless coward like you? Our daughter is in jail because someone framed her, and instead of trying to get her out, all you do is yell at me. As she shrieked, she lunged, her fingernails aimed at his face. He dodged, so furious he felt faint. She had the nerve to call him blind? In that moment, he realized with bitter clarity that he was the one who'd been blind all along. He hadn't had a single day of peace since this woman entered his life. He'd thought about divorce, but then he'd look at his sweet, smart daughter and tell himself to endure it, to sacrifice his own happiness to give his child a complete family. But today he was at his breaking point. What shattered him most was seeing his wife's irrationality and refusal to see the truth reflected in the daughter he had always adored. This life was impossible, but right or wrong, she was still his daughter. As a father who wanted to do the right thing, he had to try, even if there was only a sliver of hope. Over Susan's sobs, he steeled himself and called the dean of students Mr. Fulton. He knew a lot of people. Maybe he could help. What he didn't know was that Mr. Fulton's house was in its own state of turmoil. Nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. But when people in power make mistakes, the consequences are different. Mr. Fulton's position wasn't high, but he'd been his share of rules behind the scenes. As long as it stayed in the shadows, it was just one of those unspoken arrangements the higher-ups were willing to overlook. But someone, for some reason, had decided to meticulously compile a list of every single one of his violations since the day he was hired and deliver it straight to the superintendent of the school district. Now, the school could no longer look the other way. He was suspended pending an investigation. It was no longer a question of if he'd get his job back, but whether he could stay out of prison. His wife felt like their world was ending. Who did you piss off? She demanded. Everything was fine. And now, suddenly this? You have to go beg them. Ask them to let you off the hook. Mr. Fulton's heart was filled with bitterness. He knew exactly who he had offended. He had offended Alex Turner. The moment Alex's girlfriend had appeared, he'd had a premonition of disaster. He just hadn't expected it to come so swiftly. As he sat there, consumed by regret and panic, the call from the Thompson family was the spark that lit the fuse. He exploded, screaming into the phone. If it hadn't been for Lily Thompson, he wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. Or maybe it's at your house. Even though it's small, feels so warm and welcoming. I love it. In the car, Sophia Reed was curled against Alex Turner's arm, looking at him with open adoration. There's no place like home, Alex thought, especially when that home is filled with the people you love most. It wasn't the size of the house that made it a home, but who you shared it with. My parents are great. I really like them, Sophia said. From the driver's seat, Charles Harrington glanced into the rearview mirror, his eyes meeting Alex's. Alex saw relief and profound satisfaction in the older man's gaze, like a devoted father who, after a long search, had finally seen his daughter find her perfect match. The glance was fleeting. Charles returned his focus to the road, resuming his role as the invisible chauffeur. I can tell my parents really like you, too, Alex said, following her lead. Really? Sophia's beautiful eyes lit up. I thought so, too, but I was afraid it was just wishful thinking, that I was misreading things. Her voice grew softer. I was scared they were just being polite because I was a guest. She looked at him, her expression a mix of nerves and hope. But if you think so, too, then it must mean they really like me. Does that mean they approve of me? Alex remembered the stern look his father had given him, assuming he'd wronged Sophia, and the way his mother's eyes had been practically glued to her in delight. He felt a small, helpless sigh build in his chest, meeting Sophia's bright, expectant eyes, the same eyes as the poor little girl from his memories. Alex nodded instinctively. Yeah, they approve. Sophia let out a soft gasp, a perfect expression of her excitement. Alex noticed that Charles, while seemingly focused on driving, wasn't quite so focused after all. The faint smile playing on his lips had deepened. When they arrived at Sophia's mansion, she called Charles into her study to give him instructions. It was undoubtedly about the mess with Lily Thompson. Alex knew that with Sophia involved, Lily's self-inflicted tragedy was about to get a whole lot worse. He went to his room and sent his parents a text to let them know he was back safely. Emily replied almost immediately, asking when he was bringing Sophia over again. Her words were filled with an eagerness that suggested a day without seeing her was an eternity. Then, her tone shifted, and she sternly warned him not to hurt Sophia, or she'd be the first to come after him. Alex knew exactly what kind of hurt she was referring to. He couldn't explain the irony. Sophia was the one who was always hurting him. Sophia emerged from her study and pushed open his door. Her first words were, "Do your parents like gardening?" A jolt went through Alex. He knew exactly what was coming next and opened his mouth to protest, but she didn't give him the chance. "Tell your parents to get ready to move in the next couple of days." The Imperious CEO was back online. Alex was speechless. Sophia, perhaps sensing his hesitation, added an explanation. "They won't have to lift a finger. I'll send people to handle everything. Just give them a heads up so they're prepared." Alex felt he really needed to have a serious talk with her. But Sophia simply wrapped her arms around him, saying nothing. Only then did Alex realize that it was late, and she hadn't even changed her clothes. She held him tightly, her silence conveying a deep exhaustion. She needed to recharge, and he was her battery. "Are you going out tonight?" Alex asked, surprised. She murmured a soft, Alex didn't know what came over him, but the words slipped out before he could stop them. "Do you want me to go with you?" God knows, in his past life, he would have prayed for her to be gone every single day. Now, the thought of her going out at night filled him with a genuine worry. He had to admit it. He had changed. His feelings for Sophia had changed. He wanted to let things unfold naturally. Sophia's domineering and sometimes incomprehensible intensity was largely a product of her childhood. The person she had become wasn't entirely her own choosing. Alex felt a wave of empathy. The memory of that poor little girl had left a significant mark on him, something he thought of from time to time. But for him, she had been a unique but transient figure in his life. His world would have continued unchanged without her. For Sophia, however, those few days and the kindness he had shown her were so precious that she had never forgotten them, clinging to that memory for years. A pang of sorrow struck Alex's heart. Was it possible that, as a child, she was never loved at all? Sophia seemed to waver, hesitating for a long moment before finally shaking her head. She leaned in and left a lingering kiss on his forehead. "No, I don't want you to be tired. You stay here and get some sleep. Wait for me to come back." "What are you doing going out so late?" Alex asked tentatively. "Is it important? Don't worry about me. I'll have Charles and the others with me, so I'll be safe. You just be good and wait for me here, okay?" The corners of Sophia's lips lifted at his concern. She couldn't resist planting a quick, light kiss on his lips before pulling away, as if afraid she'd get lost in his worried gaze. Sleep was the furthest thing from Alex's mind. He stared at his phone as messages in the class group chat exploded one after another, his mouth twitching in annoyance. Today had been a day no one would forget. Lily Thompson's pristine school beauty image had shattered. The evidence of her extortion attempt was concrete, and she was likely facing up to 10 years in prison. With Sophia's aggressive intervention, Alex had no doubt Lily would serve every single one of them. And he, after 3 years of flying under the radar, had been thrust into the spotlight for a reason that was almost laughable. He had a girlfriend. It was ridiculous. So the audio was real? I can't believe Lily is that kind of person. She told me yesterday that Alex was being kept by some rich cougar. I thought she sounded bitter then. Not disgusted, more like jealous. But I never dreamed she'd actually try to blackmail him. What was she thinking? It's insane. "You can't judge a book by its cover" was a phrase invented for her. If this hadn't happened, who would have ever known, hey, is Alex's girlfriend really as beautiful as everyone says? It's not about being beautiful. It's her aura, her presence. Man, it's like she's from another dimension entirely. Did Alex save the universe in a past life, or something? How did he get so lucky to find a girlfriend that perfect? Pics, or it didn't happen? Don't ask me, ask Alex. His billionaire girlfriend looks seriously intimidating. Rich people are different, they're obsessed with privacy. No way were we brave enough to take pictures. Inevitably, the conversation turned to Jake Ramirez. Someone, with a complete lack of shame, typed out a wail of despair. "A Ferrari. A goddamn Ferrari, my dream car. If I had known Alex's girlfriend was that generous, I would have called him daddy every day for 3 years straight." His sentiment struck a chord, and a flood of replies followed. "Yeah, 3 years of calling him dad for a Ferrari? Totally worth it. I'm in. Me too. Me too." Alex was completely speechless. He scrolled briefly through the messages, ignoring the passionate appeals directed at him, and silently left the group chat. His loyalty was a focused, powerful thing, but it had sharp edges. For the people he cared about and who cared for him, he was fiercely devoted. For everyone else, the inevitable passersby in his life, he was almost cold. He didn't like wasting his finite emotional energy on people who didn't matter. Other than Jake, he had never been close with his classmates. Based on his past life, he knew they would all eventually fade into memory. Even if he ran into one or two of them in the professional world, business was business. In today's world, the bonds of being high school classmates meant next to nothing. It had been that way in his past life. If his new choices hadn't altered the trajectory of his fate, he never would have become the focus of everyone's attention. Alex called Jake, who answered instantly. It seemed he wasn't the only one having trouble sleeping. "I left the group chat." "Me too," Jake said, sounding pained. "Otherwise, those guys would have driven me insane." It was Alex's nature. He was only close to Jake. With everyone else, he kept a polite distance, which came off as aloof. Jake, on the other hand, was loud, boisterous, and more approachable. As a result, more people were tagging Jake than Alex. Receiving a Ferrari out of the blue was like winning the lottery or finding a suitcase full of cash on the street. It was unearned. And in the minds of their classmates, Jake had just hit the jackpot of cosmic luck. He had picked the right side. For a prize won without effort, jealousy far outweighed envy. They were jealous of Alex, too, but they were smart enough to know that he was on another level now. They were wary of offending his powerful girlfriend, so they directed all their resentment and imbalance onto Jake. Some were digging for information. Some were snidely asking if he could afford the insurance and gas. Some asked if he was going to sell it. Others, like Jenna Miller, were asking if they could go for a ride, claiming they'd never been in a luxury car before. A few girls had even confessed their feelings to him, Jenna included. Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. Seriously, man? 3 years of being in the same class wasn't enough for them to notice how handsome I am? They only see it now that I have a Ferrari? I don't think they're blind. I think they think I'm blind. He grumbled for another moment, then fell silent. Alex instantly sensed something unusual in his friend's quietness. "Alex," Jake said, his voice hesitant. Are we still going to be friends?" Alex was baffled. He had no idea where that came from. Before he could ask, Jake's voice dropped, devoid of any of the excitement you'd expect from someone who'd just been gifted a supercar. "Dude, your girlfriend. Was that car her way of buying out our friendship? I know I'm probably not good enough to be your friend anymore. But even if we're destined to go our separate ways, I don't want it to end like this. It feels like a betrayal of our friendship. I don't want the car. Give me your girlfriend's address. I'll have my dad drive it back to her." Listening to him, Alex felt a strange mix of being touched, amused, and a little sad. People talked about being in the same social class to get married, but since when did that apply to friendships? "She didn't mean anything by it, Jake," he explained. "You're totally misunderstanding." "Really?" Jake sounded doubtful. "But I didn't even do anything. It's not like I took a bullet for you." "Maybe in her world, what you did was more important than that." "Oh, I get it," Jake said, a sudden realization in his voice. "Is her life like one of those TV shows, where she's so rich that everyone around her is just after her money, so she has no real friends? So when she sees a genuine friendship like ours, it's like this super rare, amazing thing to her." Jake's epiphany struck a chord deep inside Alex. A wave of dense, complicated sorrow washed over him, and he felt an unstoppable pang of sympathy for Sophia. It was incredible, he thought. He was actually feeling sorry for Sophia Reed. Sophia didn't come back that night. Or maybe she did, just not to his room. Without her presence, Alex's sleep wasn't nearly as peaceful as he'd imagined. He wasn't even sure if he'd slept at all. His mind was in a fog, a chaotic slideshow of fragmented thoughts and images flashing past, impossible to distinguish from dreams. When he finally opened his eyes, the sun was already bright. His body ached, and he felt more tired than if he hadn't slept at all. He glanced at the clock. It was just a little after 5. Alex got out of bed, opened his door, and instinctively looked towards Sophia's room. Her door was tightly shut, exuding a strange sense of desolate solitude that reminded him of her. Sophia carried an air of cool detachment that kept everyone at a distance, like a snow lotus blooming alone on a mountaintop, looking down on the world. She would rather be lonely than let anyone get close. Except him. After some thought, Alex decided against knocking. What if she had returned late and was sound asleep? He didn't want to disturb her. And if she hadn't come back, what did that have to do with him? Sophia had taken over every aspect of his life, big and small, but her life seemed to have nothing to do with him. Their relationship, this forced love of a domineering CEO, was severely unbalanced. He quietly retreated to his room. At this hour, the only people usually awake were the elderly who didn't need much sleep, up to exercise or visit the market for fresh groceries. The others were those forced out of their comfortable beds by the demands of work or school. Alex, having just finished his final exams, belonged to the most relaxed category of all. Suddenly freed from the heavy burden of his studies. Like a prisoner just released, he was free to indulge in a world without rules or supervision. Staying up late and sleeping in had become the norm. While Alex didn't have such bad habits, he would normally sleep until around 7. But after a restless night, he felt wide awake. He waited another half hour, until 6 o'clock, before getting up to wash and dress. At his single request, the massive mansion was devoid of human presence. He finally spotted a maid in the dining room preparing for breakfast. The moment she saw him, she gave a respectful nod and then scurried away as if he were a monster, terrified of offending his eyes. Alex sighed. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He made his way to the kitchen. As expected, Mrs. Helen was busy inside. The maid from the dining room was now helping her. When she saw Alex, she froze, trapped between advancing and retreating. Alex gave a small, apologetic wave. Go on with your work. Don't mind me. These people had worked in the Reed household for years. They were veterans compared to him. They used to go about their duties freely, but because of him, because of one sentence, they now had to be constantly on alert, ready to disappear the moment he approached. Alex was the kind of person who hated to inconvenience others, and it made him feel deeply guilty. He decided he would talk to Sophia today. He would tell her to let them work normally, without having to hide from him. There was a time when his hatred for Sophia had extended to everything in this house. But as his feelings for her grew more complex, the place no longer seemed so offensive to him. Mrs. Helen heard his voice and turned. Mr. Turner, what are you doing up so early? She asked, surprised. Alex told a small, harmless lie without flinching. I went to bed early last night. What's for breakfast? The range hood hummed over the stove, where steam billowed from a bamboo steamer, filling the air with the savory aroma of meat. Soup dumplings. I hope you like them, Mr. Turner. If not, I can make you something else, Mrs. Helen said with a cheerful smile, showing no resentment toward the person who had restricted her freedom of movement. Alex smiled back. I'm not a picky eater. Anything is fine. He paused. Mrs. Helen, did Sophie come back last night? The dumplings were ready. Mrs. Helen turned off the heat. Miss Sophia went out last night. Alex fell silent. It was pointless to ask. She knew even less about Sophia's whereabouts than he did. It made sense. He was now the person closest to Sophia. So close they shared a bed. He couldn't help but ask, is Sophie usually this busy? So busy she sometimes doesn't come home. Mrs. Helen looked up at him. It wasn't her usual kind, benevolent gaze. This time, her eyes held a careful, probing quality. Alex met her gaze evenly, letting her study him. Mr. Turner, she asked, her voice cautious. Are you worried about Miss Sophia? Alex hummed in agreement, though a sense of confusion clouded his mind. Was he worried about her? Maybe. He couldn't say for sure. At his affirmative sound, Mrs. Helen's face broke into a wide, joyful smile, crinkling the corners of her eyes. Mr. Turner, are you finally starting to see how good she is? Her expression was so emotional it caught Alex off guard. Miss Sophia is a good child. She truly is. You have to believe me. An old woman like me wouldn't lie to you. She's a wonderful girl. If you asked for it, she would give you the heart out of her chest. Alex remained silent. I've never seen her care about someone so much. You're the first. You are so important to her. Mrs. Helen is begging you. Please don't ever leave her. Please, be good to her, will you? Meeting her pleading eyes, Alex felt an unexpected stirring in his heart. He found himself saying, of course I'll be good to her. Mrs. Helen beamed. Good boy, good boy. You and Miss Sophia are both good children. Besides the soup dumplings, breakfast included a simple egg drop soup with seaweed. After finishing his solitary meal, Alex went for a walk around the sprawling grounds, a vast expanse of lush trees and blooming flowers. He eventually found his way to the garage and scanned the dozen or so luxury cars, noticing that last night's Rolls-Royce was missing. Sophia hadn't come back. Alex turned away, lost in thought. He realized that Mrs. Helen had skillfully dodged his question in the kitchen, whether intentionally or not. He gave a self-mocking smile. He was just a gilded bird in a cage Sophia kept here. He had no right to question her comings and goings. Everyone in this house was trying their hardest to push Sophia into his heart. But no matter how kind or respectful they were to his face, They all maintained a professional distance. When it came down to it, he was still an outsider here. After wandering aimlessly around the yard for what felt like hours, it suddenly occurred to Alex that instead of guessing, he could just contact Sophia directly. She had never forbidden him from doing so. He pulled out his phone, found her number, and hesitated before tapping the call button. She called him her husband, didn't she? It was perfectly normal for a husband to be concerned about his wife not coming home all night. If he acted completely indifferent, she wouldn't see it as him being considerate. She might even think he didn't truly care about her. With that justification, Alex felt at ease making the call. His feelings toward her were a tangled mess. On one hand, his lingering resentment from his past life had mostly faded now that he understood some of the hardships of her childhood. On the other hand, allowing himself to feel sympathy and concern for her felt like a betrayal of the years he had suffered under her control. Even though he had magnanimously decided to let go of their past, his heart was still in knots. He wasn't a naive child who could easily forget the pain. Certain memories were etched into his mind, surfacing now and then to torment his pride. So, even as he recognized that Sophia's actions might not have been intentionally humiliating, he couldn't easily let go or forget. And yet, he couldn't deny it. As he got to know her better, his stance, his principles, they were all starting to crumble. He was worried about Sophia. He wanted to be worried about her. The phone rang for over 10 seconds. Just as Alex was about to hang up, thinking she might be busy, she answered. Her voice, laced with a hint of fatigue, came through the receiver. Husband. A single thought instantly hit Alex. She's been up all night. You didn't come home last night? Checking up on me? There was no annoyance in her tone. He could almost hear her smile. Just had some things to take care of. Alex hesitated. You haven't slept, have you? No matter how busy you are, you need to take care of yourself. I know. The weariness in her voice seemed to dissolve at his words of concern, replaced by a light, cheerful tone. An image of her smile, one that could melt glaciers, surfaced in his mind. By the way, she said, you should head back to your parents' place. I'm sending someone over now. It took Alex a second to process. What? Before Sophia could answer, he remembered her instructions from the previous night. Tell your parents to get ready to move in the next couple of days. A headache began to form. He could already picture his parents' baffled expressions. He knew that, like many people who'd spent their lives in cramped apartments, they harbored a quiet dream of a big house with a yard, a place to plant flowers and vegetables. It wasn't a life goal, but more of an unattainable fantasy they joked about, something that might happen if they won the lottery. They probably never dreamed the opportunity would come so soon, and through their daughter-in-law, of all people. He had wanted to talk to her about it yesterday, but she had left in a hurry. He planned to find another chance, but the ever-busy Sophia, while managing her own affairs, had still remembered his family's living situation. She was already sending people to help them move, a perfect execution of her lightning-fast efficiency. Sophie, I forgot to mention it yesterday. I haven't had a chance to call my parents yet, Alex said, trying to keep his voice casual, careful not to let any hint of resistance slip through. Besides, you said to give them a couple of days to prepare. Moving now is too sudden, especially since they don't even know about it yet. He took a breath. We've lived there for many years. My parents will be sad to leave the neighborhood and all their friends. How about we wait a little? Let me talk to them first. Give them some time to get used to the idea. He finished, and the line went silent. Alex's heart leaped into his throat. Had his lack of gratitude triggered the notoriously moody heiress? Sophie, he asked tentatively. I'm listening, she said, her voice calm and unreadable. After a pause, she added, I was too hasty. You talk to your parents first. We can move them in a couple of days. Alex let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Take care of yourself, he said gently. I'm heading over there now. Call me when you get back. The cab driver who worked exclusively for him was already waiting outside. Alex was slightly taken aback. Even if Sophia had dispatched him the second they hung up, the speed was astonishing. There was only one explanation. Sophia had anticipated he would go out today and made arrangements in advance. With such meticulous planning, it was no wonder he could never escape her grasp in his past life. She truly thought of every little detail when it came to him. The driver, Mr. Lowe, saw him approaching and calmly got out to open the back door for him, a service not included when he was just a regular cabbie. Morning, he said with a casual air. Alex smiled back politely. Morning, Mr. Lowe. The driver, Arthur Lowe, paused for a second, then chuckled. Alex got in the car without giving a destination. Arthur didn't ask, simply starting the engine and driving as if he could read Alex's mind. He expertly navigated the streets and pulled up in front of Alex's family apartment building. After getting out, Alex leaned down and offered politely, Mr. Lo, would you like to come up for some coffee? Arthur looked almost startled by the offer and waved his hands. Thank you, but no need. Hey, why are you back alone? Where's Sophie? Emily Turner's disappointment was palpable when she saw her son was by himself. Alex was speechless. What was happening? Had he already been replaced in his mother's affections? A deep sense of crisis washed over him. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer, Alex said with a grave expression. Emily's heart lurched. What is it? He just brought his wonderful girlfriend home yesterday. Don't tell me they broke up already, and he's asking if I'm okay with it. Her health wasn't bad. No high blood pressure or heart disease, but that kind of shock might just be enough to make her faint. Sophie was perfect for him. She was convinced she was the only daughter-in-law for her. Me or some other person's kid? Alex asked solemnly. Who's more important? Emily blinked. After all that anxiety, that was his question? She rolled her eyes. What do you think? I haven't gone senile. Do you even need to ask? Of course my own son is more important. A sly grin spread across Alex's face. Okay, you said it. Remember what you said today. If your daughter-in-law and I ever get into a fight, you have to take my side. Emily stared at him, realizing she'd walked right into his trap. She feigned annoyance and gave him a light tap on the head. The gesture was dramatic, but the touch was so gentle it wouldn't have even worked for scratching an itch. That's not the right way to think about it, she chided. When you marry Sophie, she'll be part of our family. She'll be my child, too. How can you call her someone else's kid? Alex put on a pitiful face. But you have to treat us equally, Mom. Can you promise to be fair? Seeing her son already jockeying for favor, Emily couldn't help but smile and pinch his cheek. Just yesterday, she was marveling at how he'd grown up, bringing a girl home. And today he was back to being a 3-year-old fighting for attention. No matter how old or successful they became, to a parent, their children were always children. Look at you, getting jealous of your own future wife, she said, her eyes crinkling with a mix of amusement and affection. She pulled over a bag of edamame and started shelling them. But think about it. A beautiful young woman like her, with thousands of amazing men in the world to choose from, decides to entrust her entire life to you. For that trust alone, you have to treat her well for the rest of your life. She paused, adding, Of course, don't you get jealous. I carried you for 9 months. You'll always be the one I love most. That much was obvious. Alex had no doubts on that front. He was just teasing her. Compared to those thousands of other guys, I'm not so bad myself, he said, grabbing a handful of edamame to shell. He changed the subject. Mom, I need to tell you something. Emily dropped the plump, green soybeans into a bowl. What is it? You'll be able to eat edamame grown in your own garden very soon, Alex said cryptically. Emily gave him a confused look, not understanding. Alex sighed and decided to be direct. Mom, you and Dad need to get ready. We're moving in a couple of days. What? Emily's shock was no less than when Michael had told her about Sophia gifting Jake a luxury car. After the past few days, Alex had fully learned a crucial lesson. There was no point in trying to resist Sophia's imperial decrees. So he had completely abandoned the idea of negotiating with her or refusing her generosity on his parents' behalf. His parents had never had a day of luxury in his past life. Now that the opportunity was right in front of them, why should he risk offending the CO in charge to turn down a gift from heaven? Once he opened himself up to the possibility, the world suddenly seemed like a much better place. If he wanted to, he and his parents could just lie back and enjoy the ride. Emily was dumbfounded. But that's not appropriate, is it? Alex popped the round soybeans from their shells into his palm. There's nothing appropriate or not about it. If you treat her like an outsider, she'll get upset. And if she gets upset, what if she decides she doesn't want to be your daughter-in-law anymore? Emily gasped. She'd really get upset? Alex nodded, working hard to persuade his mother, a woman of traditional values. Mom, I know what you're thinking. You don't want to take advantage of anyone, right? But is Sophie just anyone? Besides, it's just a house. To her, it's just sitting there empty anyway. It's better if someone puts it to good use, he continued. She's doing this because she already sees us as family. You can't hurt her feelings. He delivered the final blow. Unless you don't think we're going to last. His long-winded speech left Emily completely flustered, her resolve wavering. But the moment she heard the words, not going to last, she couldn't sit still. She genuinely adored Sophia. It had nothing to do with her being a wealthy heiress. Don't say that, she said quickly. You and Sophie will be together forever. Alex was genuinely surprised. After just one meeting, his mother had already taken Sophia so deeply into her heart. It was as if she had decided no one else would ever do as her daughter-in-law. At this point, Alex felt like a fish just floating in the water, letting the current take him wherever it willed. His future wife, being Sophia Reed, wasn't a bad thing. Honestly, he was the one who didn't deserve her. Well, maybe I should discuss it with your father, Emily said hesitantly, her eyes drifting around the small apartment they had lived in for over 20 years. A wave of unexpected sadness washed over her. Even if you move out, this will still be our home, Alex reassured her. You can come back and visit the neighbors whenever you want. Just as he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. Arthur Lowe stood there politely. Mr. Turner, Miss Sophia sent me to show you the houses. There are 7 in total. You can move into whichever one you like best. Alex was speechless. Emily, who still pictured her daughter-in-law as a sweet, gentle girl and had yet to experience her decisive, lightning-fast methods, just stared blankly. By the time she was sitting in the car downstairs, she was still in a daze. As he drove, Arthur relayed another message. Mr. Turner, Miss Sophia said that if none of these 7 houses are to your liking, she will buy a few more for you to choose from. Emily waved her hands frantically. No, that's not necessary. We're not picky about where we live. She felt faint, her mind reeling. Buying a house was a major life event for a normal family. But for Sophie, buying houses, and not just any apartments, but houses with yards big enough for a garden, which meant villas, was as casual as buying groceries. Last night, hearing that Sophia had given Jake a car had been a huge shock, but beyond marveling at how rich and generous her daughter-in-law was, she hadn't thought it would affect her own family. And now, her daughter-in-law was giving them a house. It felt like a dream. She must be dreaming. A perfect daughter-in-law, a mansion falling from the sky. What position had she been sleeping in to have a dream this good? She decided she couldn't sleep that way again, because the pain of waking up would be too much to bear. Standing in a massive yard and staring at the stately, 3-story mansion, Emily Turner hoped this beautiful dream would last just a little longer before she woke up. It was too wonderful. She didn't want it to end. A house this gorgeous was a place she could actually live in. But another part of her, the practical part, wished she would just snap back to reality. The dream was beautiful, but it was unrealistic. She had lived a modest life, and she preferred to have her feet firmly on the ground. I think this house is wonderful, she said politely to Arthur Lowe. Why don't we just take this one? Arthur smiled as he ushered them back toward the car. This is only the first one. There are 6 more to see. It's best to decide after you've seen them all. Emily didn't want to be a bother, and she truly did like the house. I don't think that's necessary. I really love this one, she insisted. Arthur's expression turned serious. Mrs. Turner, please don't worry about it. It's no trouble at all. Miss Sophia's instructions were very clear. You are to choose the one you like best out of the 7. This is my job. Being called Mrs. Turner so formally left Emily at a loss for words. Mr. Lowe is right, Mom, Alex chimed in. It's his job. We should at least cooperate. You might find one you like even more. They toured 7 mansions, located in every part of Seattle. In the end, with Alex's help, they chose the one closest to their old, small apartment. Although the houses were unoccupied, they were all immaculately clean, fully furnished, and ready to be moved into. They were clearly maintained by a regular cleaning staff. Mrs. Turner, Mr. Turner, Arthur said with humble respect. Is there anything you would like to have changed? I can have someone come over tomorrow to begin renovations. Emily was overwhelmed. No, that's not necessary. It's perfect just the way it is. Then is there anything else you need? I can have it brought over. We don't need anything, really. Nothing is missing. By now, no, thank you, and we don't need a thing had become Emily's catchphrases. Sophie has already been so generous giving us this beautiful house to live in. We couldn't possibly ask for anything more. Everything is here. We don't need a thing. Arthur glanced at Alex, his tone becoming meaningful. Mrs. Turner, that's not the right way to think about it. If Miss Sophia heard you say that, she would be upset. Please, don't talk like that in the future. Emily looked at him, bewildered. Her son had said Sophie would be upset if they acted like strangers, and now this man was saying the same thing. Was Sophie really that quick to anger? She just couldn't picture it. The girl seemed so sweet and lovely, not like someone who would get angry easily. Then she remembered what her son had told her about Sophia's past, and she sighed. What good is all the money in the world? Without a mother or father, she's just a poor, lonely child. It broke her heart. When she got upset about them acting distant, was she really angry? Or was she just scared? She was desperate for a family. Emily made up her mind right then and there. She would love Sophia as if she were her own daughter. Accepting such a huge gift, especially a house, was no small matter. She had planned to wait for Michael to come home to discuss it with him, though it would be more of a notification than a discussion. But he called to say he was busy and had to work late, then hung up abruptly. Emily felt lost. Her husband was her rock, and without him, she felt uneasy. The more she thought about it, the more inappropriate it all seemed. There's nothing inappropriate about it, Alex said. Sophie isn't a stranger. What's the big deal about living in her house? He thought for a moment and added, and technically, Mom, after the paperwork is done tomorrow, the house will be yours and Dad's. He sighed internally. His entanglement with Sophia was growing deeper and deeper. It was exasperating. When Arthur had told him about transferring the title tomorrow, his mom had been admiring the yard, wondering if planting vegetables in such a nice space would be too extravagant, and hadn't heard. Now she was stunned. What? Sophie wants to put the house and your father's names? No, absolutely not. Then you'll have to tell her that, Alex said nonchalantly. Telling me won't do any good. Emily was speechless. Her fondness for Sophie was her weak spot. The thought of upsetting the girl was enough to silence any protest. She closed her mouth and, after a long pause, came up with what she thought was a perfect solution. Well, how about this, Alex? If Sophie really insists on giving it, then have her put in your name. That way, when they got married, the house would be marital property, and Sophia wouldn't lose anything. Emily Turner might not be rich, but she had her pride. The thought of taking such an enormous gift didn't make her happy. It made her anxious. Mom, Alex said gently, you haven't been around Sophie much, so you might not understand her. Once she says something, she never takes it back. So the house will be transferred to you and Dad, just as she said. Don't feel burdened by it. Her intentions are simple. She just wants to do something nice for you. This is her way of showing she cares. Sophia had nothing but money. Alex asked himself honestly, if he were given the chance to trade lives with her, he would never do it. People say you can't survive without money, but money isn't everything. The family and friendships he had were priceless. The bright window of his childhood home grew smaller in the distance. Alex looked away, a bitter smile on his face. It seemed his own home had less and less room for him. He had planned to stay for dinner, but Emily urged him to go back and keep Sophia company, her heart aching for the young girl who had to manage a huge business at such a tender age. Arthur Lowe kept his eyes on the road, driving with focused attention. Alex noticed that ever since Arthur had revealed his true role, he had immediately shed the cab driver persona and fully embraced his identity as Miss Sophia's loyal subordinate. Beyond basic, necessary pleasantries, he, like Charles, was a silent, invisible presence. If Alex didn't speak, he wouldn't make a sound. Alex cleared his throat. Is Miss Sophia always this busy with work? Can her body handle it? Arthur offered a friendly correction. Mr. Turner, Miss Sophia is a title we, her staff, use. You shouldn't call her that. She wouldn't like it. Alex fell silent. He was being monitored constantly. His every word, every action was being supervised. If he made the slightest misstep, even with something as trivial as a name, he would be immediately corrected. His past life had taught Alex that everyone around Sophia knew how important he was to her, and they were all working tirelessly, trying to make him hers body and soul. He had never understood their obsessive, almost fanatical behavior, which had nearly driven him mad. He still didn't fully understand it now, but he could at least face it calmly. A deep blue Lamborghini was parked arrogantly in front of the mansion's gate, leaving only a narrow gap for a single person to pass. A young man, no older than his early 20s, leaned against the hood, lighting a cigarette. He took a long drag, then slowly blew out a perfect smoke ring. His eyes narrowed in a mocking smirk as he looked at the older man in the dark, elegant tuxedo. Tell that damn girl to come out and see me, he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. From his clothes to his entitled aura, he was clearly a young master, accustomed to giving orders. Charles Harrington stood perfectly straight, the polite professional smile seemingly fixed to his face. But his eyes held a cold, disdainful glint. I'm sorry, Mr. Harland, but Miss Sophia is unavailable. The second young master, Caleb Harland, took the rejection not with anger, but with a casual flick of his cigarette, which he then dropped and ground out with his shoe after only 2 puffs. Oh, she's busy, he said, his tone deceptively reasonable. That's fine. I'm not. I'll go see her. Charles's smile didn't waver. He stood his ground in the narrow opening, showing no intention of moving. Caleb sneered. Get out of my way, old man. Like a broken record, Charles repeated. Mr. Harland, Miss Sophia is unavailable to see you. Caleb's anger finally broke through his facade, twisting his lips into a malicious smile. Is she unavailable, or is she too scared to see me? Miss Sophia is a woman of integrity, with a clear conscience. The word scared is not in her vocabulary. Caleb let out a bark of laughter, as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Integrity? Don't make me laugh. She's a cunning little witch, just like her mother. A real talent for manipulation. His voice grew louder, laced with fury. While I was studying abroad, she somehow managed to wrap the old man around her little finger and get him to hand over control of the company. The old man is senile, and my older brother is too much of a coward to fight back. But they seem to have forgotten about me. As long as I'm here, she can forget about causing any trouble. Charles listened to his tirade with unshakable composure. When Caleb was finished, he offered a serene smile. Are you done? If so, please head home, Mr. Harland. It's getting late. Young people need their beauty sleep. You shouldn't squander your youth so recklessly. Caleb stared at him. Was he being lectured? Even his own father wasn't this condescending. His face darkened. Old man, are you testing my patience? He said in a low, dangerous voice. No more bullshit. Move. The smile remained firmly plastered on Charles's face. He didn't budge. In the distance, a car approached slowly. Charles glanced up, making brief, subtle eye contact with the driver. The car didn't slow down, simply driving past the entrance. Inside, Alex felt a strange pull and looked back. He saw the scene at the gate. You didn't have to be a genius to sense the tension between Charles and the arrogant rich kid. Charles was having Arthur drive him away to keep him out of it. Based on what he knew of Sophia, she was more than capable of handling some punk. Alex knew who he was, Sophia's nominal stepbrother, Caleb Harland. In his past life, Caleb had swaggered into this house and been carried out horizontally, his leg reportedly broken. He'd been screaming for his parents, a pathetic sight. At the time, Alex, trapped in his own personal hell, had hoped Caleb would return for revenge, creating a chaos he could use to escape. But whether Sophia's methods had been too brutal, or Caleb was just all talk, he had never shown his face at the mansion again. Mr. Lowe, shouldn't you go help Charles? Alex asked. That guy looks young and aggressive. If they get into a fight, Charles could get hurt. Arthur laughed. Mr. Turner, if Charles heard you say that, he'd have a heart attack. That little punk? Charles could take two of him without breaking a sweat. Alex was surprised, then thought of Sophia. Outwardly delicate, but a trained fighter. Sorry, he said, feeling chastened. Charles always seems so refined. I judged him by his appearance. Don't worry, Mr. Turner. Your secret's safe with me. But even if he found out you underestimated him, he wouldn't do anything. You're Miss Sophia's treasure. We're all too busy protecting you as it is. Alex was silent. Arthur glanced at him in the rearview mirror, his tone shifting from light-hearted to serious. Mr. Turner, Miss Sophia is a good person. You must cherish her. Alex managed a small, tired smile and rubbed his nose. I've heard the exact same words from Charles and Mrs. Helen already. There were many staff members at the mansion, but so far, those three were the only ones he had really spoken to. For all three of them to say the same thing, with such earnest conviction, could only mean one thing. They had all personally experienced Sophia's goodness. Was Sophia good? Yes. Alex couldn't deny it. She was good to him, down to the smallest detail. There was just one condition. He had to be good. Arthur smiled, not surprised. We old folks don't have many wishes in this life. Our only hope is to see Miss Sophia happy. Alex thought he was being too modest. Arthur, Charles, and Mrs. Helen were all in their 50s or 60s, hardly old folks. Mr. Turner, let me guess. Alex interrupted with a knowing smile. You're about to tell me how important I am to Sophie, right? Arthur fell silent. After a long moment, he spoke again. Miss Sophia is a good person. I've heard that so many times my ears are going to fall off, Alex thought. She deserves to be happy. Sophie, you've changed so much. I almost didn't recognize you. In the mansion's beautifully landscaped backyard, inside a small gazebo covered in climbing roses, a handsome young man of about 18 or 19 nervously rubbed his hands together, his eyes darting around, wanting to look but not daring to. Sophia, who had been gone all day, sat across from him, looking relaxed. Hearing his words, a faint smile touched her lips. Well, it has been many years. Everyone changes. I barely recognized you either. The young man stole a glance at her, just in time to catch the ghost of a smile on her face. He was instantly mesmerized. He had never seen a girl so beautiful in his entire life. He stared, completely captivated, his eyes unwilling to move. Sophia touched her cheek, her expression unreadable. Was it genuine confusion or cold mockery? What is it? Is there something on my face? The young man's face flushed a deep red, and he grew even more flustered. Alex, who had been led in through a back entrance by Arthur, was passing the garden when he saw the two of them in the gazebo. He paused, sensing a strange atmosphere between them. He didn't know the young man, and it seemed he and Sophia were practically strangers. It was the first time Alex had ever seen Sophia interacting with someone her own age. Perhaps it was because the young man was so obviously uncomfortable, but the whole scene felt dissonant. "Sophie, do you know how much I've missed you since we were separated all those years ago?" The moment the words left his mouth, the young man seemed to realize how forward they sounded. His face grew even redder, and he lowered his eyes, the very picture of an innocent, lovelorn boy. So besides Joshua, she's also called Sophie, Alex thought. He privately decided that while Sophie was smoother, Joshua sounded better, because that was his alone. "I used to worry about you every day back then," the boy continued. "I was afraid you weren't eating or sleeping well, that no one was taking care of you, that your illness would get worse. And yet, here I am, perfectly fine," Sophia said nonchalantly. The young man was taken aback for a second, then broke into a happy smile. "You're right. Seeing you so healthy now, I realize all my worrying was for nothing. After all these years, I can finally rest easy." Sophia didn't respond, changing the subject instead. "How have you been all these years?" To avoid eavesdropping, Alex started walking again. Shielded by the greenery, he could see them, but they couldn't see him. The night breeze carried the stranger's voice over to him. Alex was forced to hear the beginning of a story about family troubles and hardship. It sounded like he was trying to elicit pity. Sophia suddenly seemed to sense something and looked in his direction. In the darkness, among the rustling leaves, she saw a faint silhouette. She couldn't see it clearly, but she knew who it was. Her patience with the young man instantly evaporated. She had only been humoring him out of boredom, anyway. "So, you're saying things have been tough for you these past few years?" Sophia interrupted. The young man's heart leaped with joy. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the reason for his long, thirsty speech. He smiled, feigning resilience. "It wasn't so bad. It's all in the past. I'm grown up now. As long as I'm willing to work hard, I know I can provide a good life for my parents and myself." He finished and looked at her expectantly, as if waiting for praise, or perhaps some kind of offer. Sophia stood up without a word. The young man quickly stood up as well. She walked out of the gazebo, and he followed. Before he had taken more than a few steps, someone blocked his path. He looked at the man, annoyed. "What do you want? Why are you stopping me?" The man blocking him wore a professional smile. "Young man, it's getting late. Miss Sophia has asked me to see you out." The young man was stunned. "See me out? When did Sophie say that?" He hadn't heard anything of the sort. He watched as Sophia walked away without a backward glance, her figure disappearing around a corner. He started to panic. "You must be mistaken. I didn't hear Sophie say anything about sending me home. Besides, where am I supposed to go?" "Back to where you belong," the man said ambiguously. "But shouldn't I be staying here tonight?" the young man asked, suspicious. "I'm sorry, but Miss Sophia doesn't like having outsiders in the house." "What are you talking about? How am I an outsider?" he demanded angrily. The man's smile turned colder, a hint of impatience in his eyes. "Oh, if you're not an outsider, then please tell me, what is your relationship to this family?" The young man was speechless. Sophia's elegant figure was now completely gone from his sight. He stood for a moment before blurting out, "I'm the one who saved your Miss Sophia's life. I'm the person she's been looking for all these years." The man simply looked at him with that unsettling, fake smile, the look one gives a clown. The young man felt deeply insulted. Perhaps emboldened by his own declaration, he snorted. "You've definitely misunderstood. Sophie would want me to stay. Do you have any idea how important I am to her?" "Alex." Hearing a familiar voice call his name, Alex, who was just about to step inside, stopped and turned. Sophia was wearing a different outfit from when she'd left yesterday. It was a comfortable, loose-fitting black tracksuit, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail. Her face was bare, her skin so pale it was almost translucent. Even without makeup, she was breathtakingly beautiful. No wonder the guy had been staring at her so intently, as if he wanted to pluck his own eyes out and glue them to her. "Sophie, when did you get back?" Alex greeted her with an immediate smile. She walked toward him slowly, silently. Alex keenly sensed a shift in her mood. She seemed unhappy. He quickly reviewed his own actions. With his current understanding of her, he thought he could perfectly avoid her triggers. Besides, he hadn't seen her all day and had done nothing outside the house that could possibly upset her. Could it be that she found out he had referred to her as Miss Sophia? That promise breaking Arthur low. Sophia stopped directly in front of him, looking up at him without a word. Her expression was dead serious, her eyes filled with a scrutinizing intensity. A cold sweat broke out on Alex's skin. He forced a smile. "What's wrong, Sophie?" Her voice was low and eerie. "You saw me talking to someone just now, didn't you?" "I did. Alex answered honestly. What about it? Was I not supposed to see that? If I'd known, I would have taken a long way around. Then why weren't you jealous? Of all the things he could have possibly done wrong, Alex had never imagined this would be the issue. He wasn't jealous, and that made Sophia angry. It was completely unexpected. He felt a wave of helplessness. Honestly, figuring out when he was supposed to be jealous and when he wasn't was a bit too difficult to navigate. What if she was in the middle of a business meeting and he stormed in, throwing a jealous fit and ruining everything? I thought you were having a serious conversation, Alex explained weakly. I was afraid I'd interrupt, so I didn't think too much of it. Sophia just stared at him. Alex's mind raced. He quickly switched tactics, his voice full of remorse. I'm sorry, I was wrong. The truth is, I was uncomfortable, especially the way that guy was looking at you. He stepped closer. My Sophie is mine alone. I don't want any other man looking at you, but I know that's impossible. He looked down as if ashamed. Sophie, I don't want you to see me as petty or possessive. I was afraid you'd think I was overreacting. As he spoke, he could see the ice in her expression visibly melting. By the time he finished, she had wrapped her arms around him, standing on her toes to press a kiss to his cheek. Alex, don't think such things, she said, her voice soft and comforting. I want you to remember, I'm yours. For this entire lifetime, I belong only to you, understand? Alex let out a quiet sigh of relief. As long as he was willing to swallow his pride, appeasing Sophia was surprisingly easy. But you can only belong to me, too, Sophia added, reaffirming her terms. Somehow, Alex found himself nodding. Under Sophia's hands-on tutelage, Alex was learning that it wasn't enough to just willingly let her possess him, body and soul. He also had to show an ambition to possess her in the same way. Perhaps it made her feel that he cared. In that sense, she was better than some possessive tyrants. At least she didn't have a double standard. She held him tightly in her grasp and expected the same from him. For two people in love, this would be a symbol of their affection. But in their somewhat abnormal relationship, it was a source of constant psychological stress for Alex. Fortunately, he had developed a formidable mental fortitude. He could roll with the punches, and Sophia wasn't so terrifying anymore. Who was that guy? Alex asked, like a diligent student who had just solved a difficult problem and was now ready to apply his new understanding to the complex equation that was Sophia. He frowned, affecting a look of worry and annoyance. I don't like him. I got the feeling he has inappropriate intentions toward you. Is he trying to steal you from me? Sophia's voice dripped with contempt. Him? He's a pathetic clown. Don't worry, Alex. Didn't I tell you? I'm yours. No one can take me from you. Alex let out a dramatic sigh of relief and looked down at her tenderly. As long as you promise me that, I can rest easy. You two seemed so engrossed in conversation. I thought he must be someone important to you. He thought about what he'd overheard and asked with genuine curiosity. Sophie, have you known each other for a long time? Sophia linked her arm through his, her unique scent drifting up to him. He used to resist everything about her, holding his breath whenever she got close, as if her fragrance were some kind of chemical weapon that would erode his will and turn him into her puppet. But now, he didn't mind it at all. He even found it pleasant. He was slowly getting used to a world with Sophia in it. Sophia's eyes suddenly turned cold, though not at him. That guy, she said, her voice sharp, he deserves to die. The chilling tone of her voice startled Alex, and he blurted out instinctively, Sophie, murder is illegal. Sophia froze for a second, then looked up at him, the ice in her eyes melting away completely. A delighted smile spread across her face. Husband, are you worried about me? Of course. You're my wife. I know you're capable of anything, but I don't want you to risk everything for someone who doesn't matter. The strange thing was his sudden plea wasn't an act. He was genuinely afraid she would disregard the law. If anyone else said someone deserved to die, you would dismiss it as an angry outburst. But coming from Sophia, it was different. First, she had the power to make it happen. Second, her logic was clearly different from that of a normal person. In some ways, she was reckless, almost like a madwoman. And a madwoman was capable of anything. In his past life, he would have been thrilled to see her commit a crime, hoping she'd be arrested so he could be free. But now, he wanted her to be okay. He really had changed. Sophia stared at him for a long moment, then said, seemingly out of nowhere, like a sigh from the depths of her heart, Husband, I love you so much. What am I going to do? Meeting her incredibly tender gaze, Alex's heart gave a violent lurch. It was as if a hand had plunged into a stagnant pool, churning the water and sending his entire being into a dizzying spin. Husband, the best thing that ever happened to me in this life was meeting you. How can you be so good? I love you so much. Sophia hugged him, letting out a contented sigh. A wave of guilt, sharp and unwelcome, crept over Alex. He wasn't as good as she thought he was. His compliance, his affection, everything she saw as good in him. It was all part of a strategy to manage her. A large part of his goodness was just an act. Sophia, on the other hand, was completely genuine. Her smiles, her frowns, they all came from the heart. When she was being playful, it was impossible to believe she was the one in control of a massive corporation. She seemed like an innocent child, unaware of the world's dangers. But if she were truly that naive, could she have subdued her family and commanded the respect of her company? No, she was just too trusting of him. He hesitantly raised his hand and gently stroked her hair. Meeting you is the best thing that's ever happened to me, too. How much of that was true, and how much was a lie? He couldn't even tell anymore. Meanwhile, the young man who had expected to be staying the night finally lost his patience. "I want to see Sophie," he yelled. "This can't be what she wants. She went to so much trouble to find me. There's no way she'd just send me away. Is that stray dog who won't stop barking still here?" Sophia asked, looking at Charles with an air of command. "Miss Sophia," Charles replied. "Mr. Harland says he won't leave until he sees you. If you don't go out, he'll stay there all night. Since he has so much time and energy, I say we let him stay as long as he likes." Charles was as refined and courteous as ever, a stark contrast to the man who, just moments ago, had effortlessly taken down Caleb Harland when he tried to force his way in. Sophia glanced toward the main gate. The wind faintly carried Caleb's profanity-laced tirade. Alex felt a pang of second-hand anxiety for the guy. He was playing with fire. According to the timeline of his past life, the leg-breaking incident was still to come. On this day in his past, Sophia had ignored Caleb, deeming him beneath her notice. But now that Alex's rebirth was altering events, it was anyone's guess whether the privileged young master would escape tonight's disaster. It all depended on whether he knew when to quit. But clearly, if Caleb Harland knew the meaning of the words "quit while you're ahead," his leg would never have been broken in the first place. Sophia seemed to be in a good mood tonight and had no intention of dealing with the mad dog. Just then, however, another staff member reported, "Miss Sophia, that young man refuses to leave. He's making a scene, demanding to see you." Sophia shot a quick glance at Alex, as if offering an explanation. "I swear, today was the first time I've ever seen that person. I've never met him before in my life." Alex was speechless. Charles was still standing there, having seamlessly faded into the background like invisible wallpaper. Whatever they said, whatever happened between them, would seemingly be filtered out by his professional discretion. Of course, Alex knew that was just an illusion. Charles was a living, breathing person, not a machine you could switch on and off. Even though he would never repeat a word without Sophia's permission, having an outsider present still made Alex feel a little awkward, especially when he and Sophia were having an intimate conversation. But Sophia was being so transparent, he had to respond. "You don't have to explain anything to me. I trust you." She was insistent. "No, I have to make it clear. I don't want any misunderstandings to come between us and affect our relationship." Her beautiful eyes blinked, and then she broke into a rare, mischievous smile. "That idiot is all alone out there. He must be so lonely," she said with mock pity. "Let this young lady find him some entertainment." After giving an order, Sophia instantly transformed from a commanding CEO back into a playful girl. "Husband," she asked, "want to watch the dogs fight?" Alex was speechless. The mansion's security was tight. Getting in without permission was nearly impossible. Otherwise, how could Alex have failed to escape in his past life, despite all his scheming? There was a security room on the first floor. Except for private spaces, every corner of the property was displayed on a grid of monitors. The feed from the main gate was enlarged to fill the entire screen, showing the scene outside in high definition. The idiot, Caleb Harland, having tired of yelling, had resorted to kicking. The heavy, ornate gate shuddered with each loud bang. Sophia, far from being angry, asked Charles with genuine curiosity, "Charles, how much does this gate cost?" "Charles, how much does this gate cost?" "A little over $500,000, Charles replied. "That's cheap," Sophia said, sounding slightly disappointed. The broke Alex wisely kept his mouth shut. He wasn't naive enough to think Charles meant $500. Sophia thought of something. "How much is that idiot's monthly allowance now?" "How much is that idiot's monthly allowance now?" "In May of this year, you reduced the Harland family's spending," Charles reported. The second young master's allowance was cut from $100,000 a month to $20,000. He was extremely displeased. Alex was silently amazed. $100,000 a month for an allowance? Some people were just born on a different planet. He had a problem with a new spending limit. Sophia asked, a playful glint in her eye. Charles's mouth twitched. Caleb was a classic playboy, used to spending money like water. Having his allowance suddenly cut to a fifth of what it was, forcing him to live a life that was, in his eyes, worse than a dog's. He was more than just displeased. He wanted to tear Sophia limb from limb. If Charles hadn't warned the Harland family to keep their mad dog on a leash, reminding them that his methods of dealing with strays didn't discriminate based on the owner, the idiot wouldn't have waited until today to show up. And the Harlands can't even keep their gates shut, Charles thought. Just then, his esteemed boss spoke. 20,000 is still too much. Starting next month, he gets 1,000. If he keeps making noise, he gets nothing. He could go earn his own money. A useless parasite who's managed to develop a sense of superiority from leeching off others. As she spoke, the banging on the gate in the monitor continued relentlessly. At this point, having saved Harland Corp from the brink of bankruptcy with her unparalleled genius, she was at the top of the family food chain. The entire Harland clan now had to survive on her goodwill. That was an unchangeable fact. Did they think she was too young to be in charge? Fine. She could walk away. It would only be a matter of time before she built a new empire from scratch, while the Harlands would be thrown out onto the street, falling from the pinnacle of high society to homeless beggars. She could save Harland Corp, and she could destroy it in a heartbeat. She held the company's fate firmly in her hands. The idiot, who had been abroad and only recently returned, clearly didn't grasp the stakes. Husband, do you see this person? Sophia pointed to the monitor, where Caleb, tired from kicking, was now leaning against his Lamborghini, panting. She warned Alex in a serious tone. This person was bitten by a rabid dog and has rabies. If you see him in the future, stay far away. If he bites you. Alex suddenly felt the urge to tease her. If he bites me, I'll get rabies too, and you won't like me anymore, right? He was just joking. He truly was. His tone was playful, and anyone could have told he was just being clever. But he never expected her reaction. Sophia's face filled with panic. Don't say that. If he ever dares to lay a hand on you, I'll kill him. Alex was secretly stunned. I was just kidding, he said quickly. Don't take it seriously. Sophia looked at him with an incredibly intense focus, her expression as serious as it could be. Husband, no matter what you become, I will never, ever leave you. Alex was speechless. He was belatedly realizing that there were some jokes you just couldn't make with Sophia.